Now ready to begin. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the ESL Premiership, powered by Intel and, of course, sponsored by Aegon, by AOC, as well as Logitech. I am Killer Pigeon, and joining me on my side, my compadre, ready to see some high-tier Apex Legends kicking off on our screen shortly. It's the one, it's the only, it's John B. How's it going, bud?
I'm excited, glad to be back alongside yourself. It was an interesting one last time I was on the mic, to say the least, and since then the games have been fast, furious, ferocious, however you want to describe it. It's good old Apex Legends, right? Who doesn't love jumping on the mic on a Tuesday evening to cast some Apex? So no, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. We can't ignore the elephant in the room that this is becoming the UTFT fan club. It's very hard to ignore the fact they've been dominating at the top. But as we move beyond our playoffs group stage, rather, into the playoffs, with our quarterfinals today, maybe someone can turn up. Maybe there's some late bloomers here, John. There is definitely a big hurdle to overcome when we look at the difference between first and second place in this tournament. But anything's possible, right?
Listen, anything is possible in Apex Legends. Anything is possible in Battle Royales in general, right? But no, I mean, yeah, without sounding like too much of the fan club and fangirls over on the casting test, UTFT have definitely been the front runners so far, to say the least. They've looked absolutely flawless coming into things here, and that's why they're the Prem VPs, right? At the end of the day, I think probably become a recurring theme week in and week out that they're picking up the Prem VP titles. But no, just behind them, we're looking at the likes of Chet's, we're looking at the likes of Franco-British Union, even maybe Murky can slip into the equation as well. But, in order for those teams to jump from inside the top 5 up to the top spot, for example, you've got to hope UTFT pick up 0 points, and then, these other 2-3 teams pick up 20-30 kill, games, right? Like, that's the drastic gap between these two teams. Like, it's like 150 over 150 plus points, between first and second. So it's going to take some stopping, but listen, you never can say never, can you?
No, you gotta wait until the very end, the bittersweet end. Maybe by finals day, if UTFT keeps the sort of lead they've built, it seems impossible for someone to come back. That's a different matter. But there are some late bloomers, some late risers. There is no denying the fact that there's a good reason that UTFT keep coming through as the Prem VP, though. I checked the stats. We've had, 24 games so far? Of that, UTFT have 12 wins. They have won 50% of the games played here in the ESL Premiership. A ridiculously impressive feat.
I would love to see how many second and third places they've got as well. It'll probably be up in like the 90% mark that they finish inside the top 3, to say the least. But look, speaking of UTFT, we have got a highlight reel package to bring you, to show you just what this team can do. And KP, can they play Apex Legends, or can they play Apex Legends?
I think we'll see if they can play it on our screen, and the highlights should really speak themselves. UTFT have been so on point week after week. These guys really have been the dogs to chase, the dogs to put down, the vicious ones in every single arena, always getting the drops for free and then moving forward. But you know what? Let's check in on UTFT and see how they performed last week.
Yeah, you have got just players all around him. Jinxie in particular moving in. There's a shotgun tapping his way through, and that is Franco Brits eliminated. Can't hold his nerve, looks around to charge into the main UTFT force, and Jinx provides all the support needed as Nez gets a knock and there's one player left. Can't hold on forever for the Czech side. It's UTFT with their 8th win of the season. UTFT are having an absolute field day with it. More picks coming their way. They're challenging another team. They're bursting through the shotties, and now Horizon's going down. That was the Franco Brits. Cleaned up in an instant. Eco down to one individual, and it's all kicking off in the square.
They're going to take Pet down to 3 versus 2, and it's just going to be that little bit of cleanup. Got to try and get them down. Where are they? There you go. The last little bit of damage to come through, and it's UTFT taking the second game of the day.
It's a shield crack there. I think they're going to be pushing in now. This could be the final fight here and now. There it is. Genji takes down Marsh. The aggression comes through, and there it is. It's over. I love how aggressive Tax is playing, but he's not going to get that help from his team. They're on the other side of the rock. Tax, you're going in alone, but he's got the confidence to do it. Does take down 2. Eventually will go down. Ooh, and that is great.
It's going to be Hilda. Yeah, this is really awkward here for UTFT. If they can make it out of this alive, this will be so impressive.
Tax really has to go big here. Not only do we have a lack of utility on the UTFT side, but it's also just the lack of weaponry. But things are going well. They've knocked 2. It's all on Tax, so I mentioned he had to be the hero. They do drop the lifeline. It's getting pushed in back, dropping behind the shield. He will be able to pop the shield in time, and with the wingman in hand, can he take him down? Yes, he can. Murky, they've been eliminated now. Talking about playing with your food, this really is that. Get out the melee weapon. Oh!
And there you have it. UTFT for round 4, winning 3 out of 4 rounds. That's unbelievable from that side.
Well, there you go. Of course, UTFT, this is exactly what we come to expect. These guys have been absolutely on fire going through basically every week here. But of course, we can't ignore that there were some pop-off performances from other teams so far in this tournament, John. Especially in last week, we've seen a few on our screens. Echo turning up. But of course, as soon as we're done talking about Echo, it's back to UTFT on the screen, as seems fitting.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, let's try and, as hard as we can, to try and focus away from the likes
Let's
of
just
UTFT.
ignore them. Let's filter them off the screen, right? They don't exist.
They don't even play in the Apex Legends UK Prem, you know. That's what we don't even see them. They don't even exist to us anymore. But yeah,
Unless they die.
Unless they die, then they're very much a big talking point, because they're like, oh wow, they're not going to win a game finally, which is great. But no, in terms of the other teams, like we said, we mentioned those teams earlier on in the refresh, right? That you got the likes of Franco-British Union, you've got the likes of Chet, Murky, etc. I know the likes of, you know, Mythic, they were hanging around in the early weeks, but seem to have fallen off in the past few weeks in terms of the way that they've been playing. It's going to be such a tough task. Teams can cause the side of UTFT problems because we have evidence of that. We have got, you know, factual evidence on black and white paper, or maybe spreadsheet for us technology nerds in the gaming industry. But, you know, it has happened that UTFT have fallen out a little bit earlier on and earlier than they should do. So they can be taken down. However, it's the consistency is key, and the key factor all the time, that they just know how to get things done. And I just really struggled to try and find a way that we can make a point for these other teams to say, okay, they can maybe hot drop UTFT and kill them all off spawn and then win the game with 20 odd kills. It's such a hard task.
Well, how about this for a potential point of contention? The fact that so far we've been seeing World's Edge non-stop, right? It's quickly become clear it's UTFT's playground. We thought about this. We wanted to maybe flip the script a bit, which is why, actually moving forward in the playoffs, there has been a change to the map rotation. World's Edge is still going to make an appearance, but only for 2 of the 4 per day. The other 2 are going to take place on Storm Point. So maybe UTFT, when we switch the map up, maybe this is someone they aren't fully prepped for. Maybe someone else is a golden star waiting to be discovered on Storm Point.
Well, yeah, I mean, between the 2 maps, obviously the likes of Storm Point has that a bit more of a traditional, slower paced, you know, relaxed battle royale feel to it in comparison to the likes of World Edge, which we've just seen UTFT run around and basically, you know, pub stomp for the majority of the time. So
we're not meant to notice them. We're not meant to talk about them as something.
Sorry, TFTU, they're the new team, right?
Yeah. It's I don't know who these guys are on our screen right now. They're bots. So they came out of nowhere. I don't know.
It's like, you know, it's called the legend mode on the bot lobbies, right, or something like that. But either way, no, look, I think for the likes of Storm Point, it is obviously traditionally a little bit more slower paced. It has got a bit of a more relaxed dynamic to the map, but either way though, I think that might even just buy into UTFT's playstyle a little bit more, because a lot of these teams might take a bit more of a relaxed approach, hug the edge of zone, for example, in the edge of each phase. But UTFT are a team that constantly move around the map. If you see them, it is very rare you'll see them stay in one POI apart from their drop spot for longer than a few minutes.
Exactly.
They just literally ignore the pun, but they storm through maps quite literally. They just go from one POI to another and just hunt teams down. So I think the fact it's a bigger map, yes, we might see probably a little bit more of a lengthier game 3 and 4, but I think the outcome might still be the same.
And that's the thing. Remember, folks, this is a rolling schedule, so not guaranteed that if you walk away now and come back at 7:30, you'll be here in time for round 4. Could even be over by then. It really comes down to how quick some of these games are going to be. And World's Edge at least has that potential to be done a little bit quicker than Final Circle that we're used to seeing in things like ALGS. But I agree, Storm Point, when you slow things down, it's not just the size of the map, it's also the way it's structured around these choke points that funnel you through. I like to think of Storm Point more like an RPG experience in a Battle Royale, if you get what I mean, where you level up, right? You're like, I've beaten this opponent, now move on to the next one. Now move on to the next one. It's like a progressive journey. Third parties can happen, but I'd say they're a lot less frequent than what you get on World's Edge, and that might be something that lends a strength to UTFT, because it feels like in the past, they've needed multiple teams gunning for them at the same time for things to fall flat.
Well, speaking of the standards and speaking of the side of UTFT, or should I say those who should not be named, are currently sitting at the top of the overall standard. And this is how things look from then and throughout. 12 wins, like you said, over 50% or a bang on 50% win rate out of the 24 games that we have played and seen so far throughout the Prem. Behind them is that squad that I mentioned, Franco-British Union, sitting on 207 points after picking up 3 wins. Chet's just behind those on 185. And all the way back down through to our top 10, of course, with Echo Esports being sat in 10th spot with 83 total points. So look, let's not say that it's over just yet. Franco-British Union very much and very well can still get back into this. However, it has to be flawless Apex Legends gameplay.
Man, I love how neutral or appropriately named for a team with 0 points, but the thing that's really heartbreaking here is if you look at all the teams participating, there's only one that's yet to net themselves a win. Of course, Catjam, and you feel for them because they're clearly turning up and fragging, right? I think they've had a few second places, but usually pipped at the post. Hopefully they can at least get 1 win in the bag. It'd be nice to see no one missing out on that, but I think you're right. Like, when we look at the people that can dethrone the Kings, has to be Franco, has to be Chet, Murky in there too. Everyone else feels like they're far out of contention here, because we've got, like, what, 12 games left in this tournament? Let's say you average 20 a game. Once again, you're in a situation where UTFT would need to never score a point, and that does seem nigh on impossible.
Yeah, well, you've seen the standards. Let's take a little look at what legends these players decide to pick and take on in 2 games. And I don't think we've really seen too much shuffle in terms of the legend picks that throughout the weeks. I mean, even casting my mind back to last week when we was in the group stages, myself and you, pretty much looks exactly the same. We've got the Valk, such a heavy pick, almost a guaranteed pick in the majority of legend comps, due to the fact that they've got the redeploy, of course, to pop to either find yourself a new location once the phase moves in, or to try and hot drop onto a person that you might tag up and make glow. Behind that, Seer really come into the meta since they've jumped on into the game and become a legends, pickable legend. Horizon just behind that at 17.7%. Other than that, you know, I mean, it's pretty much standard stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is to think about Lifeline. I believe Lifeline is exclusively, maybe bar 1 game, been ran by those who shall not be named, right? I believe it's Tax is usually the one on it. So that's more or less them just contributing. Makes a lot of sense for their playstyle as well. Like, that team wants to consistently rotate. You want to be able to keep going, but you know you're going to have to loot along the way. And if you slow down to loot, you're not shooting people. Cool thing about Lifeline, you show up to an engagement, you drop your care package, you finish off the targets. By the time you're finished off with them, you've got yourself loot in the care pack that's landed. You've got loot on the containers of the drop bodies. It's all good. And it allows them to escalate really effectively. It's been impressive the way they've utilized a legend that is memed upon, right? It's seen as an inferior version of several other legend options at this stage. Another interesting detail is Bloodhound creeping in. I thought we'd see more Bloodhound, but people's reluctancy to play Crypto means that Bloodhound isn't needed. The reason Crypto is meant to be a Bloodhound enabler is because Crypto actually counters Seer. Right, you go in with the EMP, you destroy the exhibit, all of a sudden that scan opportunity you have with Seer is removed. And that's why in the LGS we've seen multiple teams shift towards Bloodhound, because he's not disabled by the Crypto like so many other legends are.
Yeah, well, it's pros and cons, right? Everyone has their favourite and preferences when it comes to the Legends pick. Listen, you don't want to see some of the Legends that I run, all right, for memes on stream and
whoa,
games.
They're all acceptable now, John. Are you a Bang main? That's making a resurgence. That's actually good now. I never thought I'd say that.
I mean, what do I? Well, to be fair, I play a lot of Bloodhound. To be totally honest with you, I like.
You're coming about.
I like I like the tracking ability, but maybe I'm just missing a decent Crypto main on my team to keep me alive, because Sears just seem to absolutely destroy me whenever I play these days.
That's how it works. It's not your fault. It's someone else's.
Exactly, it's like that meme on the pie chart. Have you seen it? Reasons I've lost a game. Like small 1%, they're better than me. 99% is my trash teammate's fault or something like that. But listen, we don't promote toxicity here. What we do promote though is fantastic Apex Legends gameplay. We're gonna head on to map number 1. We're heading to the first map, World's Edge, of course, to kick things off. And I'm excited, KP.
I am too. First game of the playoffs, and we are ready to get underway. Now, of course, we haven't got the fullest of lobbies, but that won't stop certain teams from hunting down all those hiding in their corners. And as expected to open up, we are going to see Voldemort's apprentices heading over to Skyhook and Trials. Meanwhile, looking at the rest of the spread, there has been some deviations. We used to get used to this regular cluster duck at the beginning of the game over at Mild. That's not happening anymore. The teams have actually spread out. Instead, they've spread out, but ended up in the same location. It looks like we've switched over the aggression point to be Siphon at the beginning of these games.
Well, we was having a bit of a chat before the start of the broadcast, saying we've only got 10 teams in the lobbies. This might make it a little bit slower pace for us. Not when 3 or 4 of them decide to drop right at the same POI. We could be whittling ourselves down to about 6 or so teams within the first couple minutes here. But no, still early doors, of course, going to go through those loot phases, trying to grab yourself as much weaponry, artillery, and of course trying to get those decent Evo shields up and running as quickly as possible. But what is it that some of these teams have got to do to try and counter the likes of UTFT off the back of these early drops?
I mean, it'd be nice to see them actually try to contest them at the beginning, but everyone's just kind of paranoid about that idea. I guess in some ways it's nice. You think about the amount of Battle Royale tournaments you've seen before where people that essentially are out of the running grief the potential winners, right? That's not necessarily happening clearly here. And I don't know if that's because they don't want to be that type of person, or it's because everyone is just completely scared of those that lie in the north. But instead, it's always the same area, right? Like in the first few weeks, we saw it over at Maud, and now it's shifting towards Siphon. Before that, I think it was Thermal Station and Tree. All this early aggression seems to be contained to the south side of the map.
Well, I think the song lyrics are like east side to the west side, but maybe it's north side to the south side these days. And well, yeah, I get obviously people do have their preferred drop spots in it, and if it works, you definitely don't don't ever want to be the caster to encourage griefing, because my my Twitter DMs and notifications will be absolutely flooded by the end of the broadcast. But I think that might be probably one of the only viable ways to try and slow the side of UTFT down, because even then, though, we spoke about it, even off their initial drop spot, right, on their POI, they rarely stay there for longer than 2 or 3 minutes. As soon as they've got a decent weapon in their hands and the likes of Blue Evo or higher, they're already off trying to find kills, which is one of the reasons it makes them such a tough team to deal with.
It's like, you know what the problem here is? These teams, they should have made Twitter accounts straight away as well, because the thing you have to remember is, the way the Battle Royals work, it's not coercion if you publicly state where you're going to drop. Now, if everyone made a Twitter account before this game today and publicly said they were going to drop in Skyhook, there's no coercion there. There's no clear intent. I mean, we definitely have a very quick ending to these games, John. I think everyone would be dead in the first 5 minutes, but it would definitely give you that action. Whereas now you can see there's a wider loop period occurring in the early game here. This is something I expect to extend further when we move to Storm Point, just because it's going to require a lot of flexibility. In fact, I'm jumping ahead of the gun, but just kind of a thought here. Similar to the way that you're seeing teams focus around balloons here on World's Edge, expect people to focus around the bike locations on Storm Point for that mobility.
Yeah, and I think, we speak a lot about mobility in Apex Legends. There's not too many, ways to do it other than the likes of the balloons or the bike spawns on the respective maps. So even more so important if you want to try and find those extra kill points, right? Yeah. It's going to be vital that you grab yourself some of those early rotation pass and that early mobility, because you could lose out on like 3, 4, 5 points easily just off the back of not finding a few kills. But too much sauce at the moment, not got too much going on. Neither does anyone really in this lobby. Of course, we've only got 30 players in the game. All 10 trios still very much standing. And this is something that obviously is accustomed to the smaller lobbies, the slightly bigger map, of course, later on going on to Storm Point. But again, you asked me the question. I kind of want to throw it back to you in a minute. Is this going to benefit UTFT, or are we going to see some of these other teams prefer this slower style of play?
UTFT can be very confident with the lead they've built, but this team needs to get kills. Franco Brit straight into the action immediately. Remember, these guys are in second place, so if anyone needs to go for a bloodbath, it's them to make UTFT uncomfortable at the top. And looks like they are going to spill some blood to open this up on both sides, though. Franco Brit's down to 2 members standing. JC with the taps coming out, but tap down to barely living. They need to make a quick recovery. And August right now, if they get the resi off inside here, they could easily clutch up, but it's not going to be for free.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough time. Gets rolled down to about 1 or 2 HP to say the least. The fight's still coming through. It's going to be the Evo shield does get cracked inevitably, and although Clone is going to drop his teammate, it's going to be Demos who unfortunately falls. The confirmation on the kill goes through as well. So what was momentarily a 3 versus 2 has now turned into a 2 versus 1 in favor of the side of Franco Brits. I think they probably will be able to stick the revive as well.
Yeah, they're going to get it. There's no way. August, they missed their opportunity there. You got to remember, Get Roller, they had the thermal. They could see through their own smoke. That was the best moment to play, but they got really scared at the last moment being so low HP, so they back off and they essentially forfeit this entirely over to Franco Brits. I think in that situation, you go big or go home. I understand why he was reluctant. He didn't necessarily know that the two remaining members on the other side were about 50 HP between them, but means they miss out an opportunity and likely they won't recover. And straight away, we're moving across to UTFT. They've made that rotation out of north side, straight into landslide, and they are ready to spill blood.
Yeah, well, they are going to have to deal with at least one team on that rotation. The wingman shots, we know how deadly that wingman can be in the hands of anyone, let alone in the hands of Nez from UTFT. The portal does come out, so that's going to help his squad rotate over off the back of popping that ult. But either way, though, so much damage is being done. That's going to be one player dropped from the hands of Jack. That's the Arcstar doing so much damage. Shield does get cracked. It's going to be Genji. He's there to clean it up as Lawman falls. And, well, this is one of the reasons why they are currently the overall standing top dogs. Because, well, you blink and you miss it. You give them an inch, they take a mile. UTFT find their first 3 kills.
That double tap heady secured the fight indefinitely. They'd already dropped one. They pop into the second. There's no chance to reset. UTFT relentless. But I am going to call him out. I am going to throw some fire and flames his way. I am disappointed in Genji. We had a discussion. He was in my DMs. He likes to flex. He's a very confident lad. And I said, please make this reasonable. Make this interesting. How about pistols only this time? And he promised me double wingman. Did you see that 301 being fired, John? I have been lied to. We have been deceived. He will not be getting called the sheriff by me.
Deception, deceivement. Sounds like a standard esports player if you ask me, KP, when you're talking to them. But either way, we'll have to call him out afterwards. Maybe that's the only way we can deny them an entry into Prem VP for the week is because they lied and they went back on a bet that we had between them. I think that's a valid, reason,
they
right?
weren't honourable, right? We believe in honour over here. I mean, I know we're in a game where third parties happen a lot, but honour, guys. Ooh, Wait.
The not so honourable mention.
Oh no. This is like out of the frying pan into the fire. They are heading away from a tough squeeze into a worse one. UTFT right with their position to take out Chet, and I don't think they know they're there yet.
Yeah, Chet, you've walked straight into the firing squad by the looks of it. They see the boxes though, so they're going to know that at least a little bit of bloodshed was spilt on these grounds, but for UTFT, sorry, again, it's going to be Genji on this high ground. Such a difficult... I know, there's the confirmation. The 301 is definitely out from...
None of those are pistols, John. He lied to me. Up in scans.
Maybe you meant last game. Last game of the day, maybe. Maybe I'm trying to give him excuses here. But either way, though, UTFT already, they've potentially spotted their next victims. A few tags do come through. I think a break on the Evo shield as well is going to force those shield batteries or shield shells to be used back up. And yeah, this team that popped the rotation off the Valkyrie deploy probably couldn't have asked for a harder task.
Yeah, and they could try to go back the other way, but they've got limited time. The ring's going to close soon. There's still a team in construction waiting for them with Fragment West. It feels like you have to go big or go home here. They are at least doing some decent damage to UTFT on the high ground. Nez playing wide flank, but the issue is they have no approach. Even if they crack a target, they need to crack 3 of them to grab any ground here. And instead, they're being cracked. Genji's had enough. Moving in now. Sees a target hiding behind the rocks. He did get a heavy crack, and this is a widespread. Notice UTFT have fully encircled. They blocked off any angle of approach or escape for their opponents.
And this is one thing they do so well. It's almost Anaconda Vice-like. They just suck the life out of you as a team in team fights. But fortunately for that squad, the third party comes through. It's going to be too much sauce. Maybe a little bit too hot for the side of UTFT to handle. Big old crack as well onto the shield. This is a nightmare situation that UTFT find themselves in. They're sandwiched between 2 squads.
They need to get out fast. They've got the retreat point behind them, but that's going to push them up against the ring as well. And you see the pings coming out. Too much Source are aware and want to rotate. One downside for Source here, though. They lack rotation heroes. They're full aggression and scan plus the seer. So they don't have a way, like with a Valk, of reset and get a better position. Meanwhile, Genji, signature Valk constantly here. If you ever end up in the worst of jams, you always have that get out of jail free card that Valkyrie offers you via the Skyward Dive.
It's such a useful ult, right? And I think it's probably been a staple of competitive It's probably been the staple of competitive Apex Legends since Valk's been brought in and really since become viable to play. And yeah, for those reasons, we see UTFT use it on both ends of the spectrum there, right? I mean, we've seen them time and time again to use the Valk redeploy to dive onto teams that they crack up and they want to try and find some free kills onto. But we also see the other side of how good that Valk redeploy is to just get yourself out of trouble and live to see another day. So really good management of the ults there from the side of UTFT.
There's no legend that really offers what Valkyrie offers. They've tried to nerf it in so many ways, and I will say they've done close to enough, but at the end of the day, she'll always have a place, depending on your playstyle. It's just too unique of a legend design. Well, no Valks to be seen here. Preds of the West, they have got one of the popular legends though. They've gone for the Horizon and backed up the double beefy boys, so it looks like they have more effective HP to play with, and they're going to need it when black holes get thrown them like this. Have to back out. Looks like they're being pinched from the side by the charge rifles. They're not in the best of positions. Now, the ring has only just closed, but no doubt they can't stay here long term.
They can't stay there for any much longer, really, as they got the side of Mythic now, trying to close their way over towards the edge of this next phase. And I think they spotted the crack as well, and, well, Nez, unfortunately, Nez is stuck underneath
Hold on a sec.
this big old cliffside on the train tracks on his own.
And
he's got two squads just partying above him. How's Nez actually ended up there?
Honestly, it's almost like one of them caught the train, the others didn't. Like, one arrived in the early seasons, and the others came in like season 10 plus, and the train didn't exist anymore in World's Edge. That's a very odd split from UTFT. I imagine what happened is two members ran out, and then the fight began, because they would have been rotating from up north. So this wasn't intentional. This was just them trying to get to a better position and getting caught midway through.
Get caught. One thing you don't want to get caught by is this wingman. Nice to see JC honouring at least. Well, I don't mean definitely.
Wait, he didn't promise me anything. Thank you, JC, but it's not your fault.
trying to see positives out of a bad situation here, alright? That's what we got to do as casters, right? But either way, though, 7 squads left, remaining 21 in total. Of course, my private education not going down the drain just yet anyway. But we do see the Valk redeploy come through from the side of Franco Brits. They're going to try and locate themselves a little bit more central inside of this zone, but I think two teams. Oh, for a second I thought that was as a different team that dropped onto the same exact spot, but of course Clone did separate from the pack.
No, Franco Brits got here ahead of. I think this is usually where both Murky and Mythic found themselves in past weeks, especially Mythic loved this spot a lot. So kind of beating the punchline, and you can see where the rings are going. They have a brilliant location. They might be able to try to fly over the top of the mountain behind them. It's a little bit awkward these days because of the lack of height you get anymore. You lost about 25% compared to the old skyward dives. It might be that they're not able to fly high enough and have to wrap around again, but Gang in the meantime are going to be annoying for them. Bocek has been picked up, so someone is fancying themselves as a Robin Hood this weekend, and UTFT aren't too far away. The question is whether they're going to be the Sheriff of Nottingham or not.
Well, when you got a bow in hand, sometimes you're in a Cactus Everdeen, you're in a Robin Hood, whatever analogy you want to say does rise to the surface, but we do know that this weapon can do a decent amount of damage, and well, there you go, double 70-yard crack, and it's always nice to see it brought to a. What is it? Never bring a knife to a gunfight. Never bring a gun to a bow fight. I think is the new trend that we've got to start setting up here at the
it's just
the UK Prem.
It's like ranged knives, or I call it like ranged mini spears. It can work out quite nicely in UTFT. Oh, that's not looking too nice, Nez. Stefan in the high spot. In the meantime, they lost one member. Mythic push in and look to get aggressive. Second one down. UTFT now in trouble. Mythic caught him with their hand in the cookie jar, looking wanton. And now they're the ones to take it all.
Yeah, and I think what they got to do is they got to try and hunt this final kill as quickly as possible, because even one player left alive for UTFT can still do a lot of damage. They do find a little bit of a tag up. It is going to be a crack onto the shield as well, so no more Evo to work with for the player on the side of UTFT. And this is a nightmare spot that UTFT have found themselves in. They are just inside, I think, the points for the placements. But either way, though, dying out in 7th spot here, they would have expected better coming into game 1 today.
But they will be somewhat happy to see a team like Mythic is still in it. Remember, Mythic are one of the lower performing teams. They are in the bottom 4, right, with 92 points. They're incredibly far away from UTFT's 354. So although it's annoying for them, at the same time, smile on their face that there are still these X factors in the final rings that can screw over other teams ahead of that position. Teams like Franco-British Union and Chets that, of course, are near the top of that leaderboard and are the most likely people to be able to contest UTFT.
Well, contesting them is one thing, but delivering on it is another, and that's exactly what the side of Mythic have done. For the side of Gang, though, The
Like
team
this
probably has been
position.
a little bit quiet throughout the whole of Prem though, right? I mean, they're in a good position like you
Yeah.
mentioned just now, but they've not really set the world alight at the moment, but obviously going into the first of the group stages, looking to try and do one up on their previous group stages.
I think it was usually to do with their drop locations, like they were being sandwiched between usually 2 of the top 5 teams consistently, so they had to break out of awkward landing contests, right? So I'm not too surprised that they've been struggling a little bit. Looks like they've switched up something though. I think they were one of the teams consistently running the Watson. I believe they were one of the teams that were able to get a win over UTFT in the early days. So there's definitely some potential to their combo, but it really comes down to positioning and getting there ahead of time. And speaking of that positioning, Too Much Sauce are playing gatekeeper to a lot of teams potentially wrapping in here. Jets, they want to break through. Arcstars being spammed up the wazoo will push their opponents back. Looks like they might get an entry to now follow through.
Well, here comes the side of Jets. They do see a little bit of gunfire going on. They want to try and capitalize on that, and it is going to be J-Lo to find the first knock onto Milokski. And other than that, it's going to be lots and lots of rain of hell coming down onto the top of this team's head. And just like that, it is going to be the confirmation of the kill. But Mythic going to try and third party here?
They're trying to party right now. The problem is they missed it on the grab lift. They weren't able to jump in time, and it would have been 2 splits. So instead, Mythic now have to reset and back off. They have just got an active scan on the backside, so they realize there's some rats waiting in the woodworks. Gang's final member is going to be eliminated. We are now down to 4 teams.
4 teams remain, just 11 players in total. And well, we asked the question, right? Is the smaller lobbies on a slightly not largest map, but a decent sized map going to make us have slower paced games? I think the answer might have been no. I mean, at the moment, I guess the pacing's doing all right. We're just currently 20 minutes into the game, but in a usual competitive Apex Legends lobby, you'll probably still have around 10 plus squads left in this in this sort of stage at the moment. So half the numbers, but nevertheless not half the entertainment. But Joe Bear is going to be tagged up relatively low. The Evo just hanging on for dear life, so no doubt the shield battery will come into effect, and it does.
Yeah, and that's a 2-man team as well. Preds of the West were reduced to 2. Remember, this is a team that went for the double tanky boys, the ones that had to rotate from along yonder. In fact, they made a weird rotation. They came through a launch site, they went through tree, up to Harvester, and then back around down to thermal stations. They've essentially just been circling these final rings like someone swirling, being flushed down the toilet. But they're not looking to be the crap here. They are looking to be the flusher. They've got a big challenge ahead of them. You can see how they are the ones who have to move first. Chet have a brilliant position to lock them out. They're looking to press it.
Yeah, is it going to be down the drain with the hopes of the side of Trex, or can they float to the surface? And at the moment, it seems like they're floating high as J-Lo and Coach are going to combine for a couple kills. It's Joe Bear and Blade who fall, so that's going to be the duo eliminated from this game. We're down to just 3 trios left alive. We've got the side of UTFT obviously been eliminated here, so this is going to be a big old game for one of these front runners behind them to try and make a statement and grab their first win.
Yeah, I don't think they were ready for that, Jelly, but we'll have to see who's going to be the most bootalicious, because it has come down to Mythic with what I'd say is the gold spot right now. Best building to have here. Other 2 teams are going to have to stop colliding with each other and contest this position if they want to take the top spot, because otherwise they're going to be going away from game 1 with only a podium finish at best.
Well, a podium's better than nothing, right? I think these teams will take podiums as to how one-sided this whole affair has been so far. But either way, though, Chets, they want to try and put themselves a 4th win on the board. They're sitting at 3 currently level with Franco. Brits, of course. For the side of Franco, though, they want to do just that as well. So it's interesting that we've got 2 of our top 3 left alive here, and there's only, what, 20-odd points separating 3rd and 2nd place. So this could be a big, big final few moments or so for how the overall standings could potentially see themselves play out.
Especially for Franco Brits. If they win this, they could easily crack 10 kills plus the placement of 1st place. I mean, that would put a big dent in the lead that UTFT have built up so far. Mythic, of course, playing from much further behind, but not looking too shabby in this game. And Jets, of course, are the 3rd place team. So when we talk about podiums, as the rankings look overall right now, 2 of the top 3 teams are here in this final circle.
It's going to be an interesting affair. One team, though, Clone and his squad. I think that is Chets, who have unfortunately got the low ground in this occasion.
Yeah.
You've got
that little spot, by the way. Like, you see where J-Lo and Nick are playing on right now? Like, that actually might be the secret god spot here, because of the way the ring is going to push the team on building over the top of that ramp, and they'll be fully exposed.
Yeah, it's such a tough spot to try and operate from, but this is the way you want to do it. You want to find the first crack. I think There were the missiles thrown over the way of the squad as well. So JLo's squad not too comfortable just yet. I think the Arc Star is going to be popped to try and do a little bit of damage again. The bombardment does come through. Those missiles running down. That's going to be an Evo crack as well onto Horizon. So the squad of Franco Brits, although they're not in the best of spots, they may just live to see another day. But look at Mythic. They're lying in wait. They played it perfect.
Yeah, their timing's perfect on this. Now the Black Hole return. Chet's now looking for vengeance. That Black Hole that's thrown out was instantly blitzed through, so it didn't do any real damage here, any substantial one. But JLo pushes alone and gets punished for it. Chet now down to 2 members. Of course, Mythic in a god spot here to be the crowned Kingmaker, or crown themselves if they choose. Franco Brits down to 1 member. Mythic simply just have to take what is rightfully theirs now. And as soon as Chet's come over that high ground, they are going to be fully exposed. Chet's jumped the gun, and as a result, went from perfect spot to worst spot possible out of the remaining 3. Franco Brits now out. It comes down to Mythic and Jets.
Yeah, it's going to come down to high ground versus low ground, but the only problem is the team on the low ground have got 1 extra player for themselves to work with. It will really come down to who gets the first bit of damage done in this team fight. If it can be put into a 3v1, it should be GG. But if one player does get beamed, it's going to be tough. The back hole return does come back out. Teddy swings on forward, finds the first onto Coach. 3 versus 1, Mythic. They take game number 1.
And what a way to do this. Mythic, a team that we said could have potentially written off in most people's eyes, right down in, I believe it was 6th place, 7th place. Not looking too great when you came into this day, but what a great way to open up. Mythic, the patience there not to reveal ahead of time. They go from having the worst spot to what becomes quickly the god spot because the other 2 teams get patient. Mythic will win game number 1, and what a way to do it.
Oh my, Mythic. Quite literally magical at times in terms of the way they played that game. And it's so funny how Apex Legends within the matter of seconds can change your spot from being potentially coming out in 3rd spot to it flipping to being a god spot right off the fact of either a zone shift or the way a team plays it. And as soon as JLo gets aggressive down towards the bottom of that ramp off the top of where we thought that the side of Chet's had the god spot, that instantly changes the affair straight away because the other team of Mythic know that if Chets want to get this player up, they're going to have to advance forward down towards that ramp as well. So all we have to do is buy our time, let this team skirmish and fight between the sides of Franco Brits and Chets play out, and we just pick up the pieces and find the freest game of our life. That's exactly what the side of Mythic did, and they get rewarded very, very richly for it.
And they deserve it. I mean, that patience is key. Sometimes Battle Royale, you just rush to pull the trigger, but you know what? We're not going to pull the trigger and analyze the whole game. There's plenty more to break down. We'll get into that, but first, a short break. When we return, we talk more about that first game. Why are we bothering? Why are we here? UTFT just win everything, right? Wait a second. Hold on. It didn't happen, folks. UTFT only scored 5 points this game. Franco Brits getting a bunch on the board. Mythic, Chet's as well. All these people chasing and nibbling at heels are finally starting to turn up and disappoint. The question now is whether they can continue to do that through now, tomorrow, and the day after.
Yeah, I mean, it is crunch time, right, when it comes to the way these games are going to start to play out. And one thing I want to say and ask you early on here is the pressure slowly starting to get to the side of UTFT? I think they bit a little bit more off than they could chew this time around in game number 1. And boy, oh boy, did they pay for it. I think you did the maths in between the games, and it was like a 5 or a 6 point game from the side of UTFT. Yeah. In comparison, I think we saw like a 30-odd point game from the eventual winners and the likes of Mythic. So, you know, these teams behind them, they can still very much close this gap. So UTFT, they've got to be a little bit more careful. But look, let's not talk about the UTFT show, because that wasn't the case for map number 1. Got to say, though, that final 3-way fight between those 3 teams probably could have gone all 3 ways based on the way one team decided to play that engagement. Yeah. And it turns out that Chets and Franco Brits were the ones that played it wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, the tough part is you don't necessarily know who's in each location, right? So maybe you feel like you're getting rid of the biggest threat. But they're all big threats, right? That's not from a points perspective what I'm talking about. But the way this plays out is there is a little bit of power in Noya coming out, I think, from Chets on that high ground. I said they have this God spot, which I think they do have the overarch if it lasts long enough. But in the early phase of that final ring, their chief concern is that there's a wall behind them, right? A wall that all kinds of throwables would rebound off of or stick next to and then force you out into the open. So they get a little bit anxious. They look for this push. They get a good crack onto Franco Brits, and then they go for that push. But they don't fully commit as a team because they still want to hold that God spot, and that's where things start to really unravel. Mythic were just brilliant with that patience, though. They didn't overshowed their hand early on. They essentially just let the other 2 sides bite at each other, nibble at each other, take chunks out of each other so they could come in and just essentially cough on them and they die, right? There wasn't any real effort needed. Of course, they did deliver good shots, but the hard work was behind them because of that patience. And I cannot emphasize this enough, folks. When you're playing a game like Battle Royale, I know we all like to do our best King Kong and full-on ape send it, but sometimes patience is key.
Yeah, like patience is a virtue, right? That's to say it, and sometimes you just got to live and die by it. And you know, we, again, like you mentioned, often highlight the likes of UTFT, for example, and Chets and Franco Brits for being these high-paced, impactful teams. But sometimes you just got to say, I don't even need to touch my keyboard. I'm gonna just hold Control or C or whatever my keybind is for me to just crouch behind the wall. I'm gonna just let you guys do the hard work. I'm gonna come in and fire a few bullets at the end, maybe throw an arc star or 2, and I'll take the points home. You guys can do the damage.
It's interesting as well, because I think when you look at the way that Mythic played that final position, like, if I had to explain to you, like, who had spot on who, right? Like, so Chets have a better spot on Franco Brit Union, they could ruin them. But Franco Brit Union, if they find a way to wiggle in Mythic, they can essentially, like, pip them at the post and deny them. Mythic had to play this weird position where essentially they aren't going to win in theory, but they're kingmaker for one of the other 2 teams, right? They can either block Franco or they can block Chets, but it's very hard for them to win from that position themselves. But once again, it was that patience. They just waited. Like, it's very hard to wait in that moment, right? Because at that stage, it feels like your fate isn't in your hands. It's in your opponents doing something that you require to come through. But they did. The patience paid off, and they took an amazing win to open up this game and open up these series.
And maybe that's what they needed to build on the confidence, right? To now try to take themselves from the likes of 6 spot all the way up to the top 3, maybe. Because even between that top 3, okay, maybe let's say second through to top 5, sorry, there's only about 70 odd points in the mixer, right? So it's still very foreseeable that we could see the likes of someone even inside the top 8 jump their way back up into these standings and make a case for themselves.
Yeah, and this definitely helped Mythic, right? I don't want to completely write them out, but it kind of felt like they were at that stage. But they went from, I think it was 7th up to, 8th up to 6th off that. Or is it? Yeah. No, 7th, sorry. I'm bad with counting. They went from 9th to 7th. Which is it's a pretty big jump, right? So they went from something like they didn't have triple digits basically. They're up to 115 now, so they got a big bump. I think they got 23 points overall from that victory. The other 2 in the running did pretty well as well. Franco British Union, of course, the team that was in 2nd place, they increased their point gain by 15. Now compare that to UTFT, that had about 150 point lead. That only gained 5 in one game. They just shrunk that gap by 10. Now, if this somehow continues at this level for the next few days, like it would put them just behind UTFT. So definitely need to step it up. But like we already highlighted, the story here is now UTFT. Is this the dawn of a different time, right? Or can they return to the godly stance that they displayed in the first few weeks?
Well, time will tell. We'll have to wait and see. We are going to be heading into game number 2 shortly for you. And as I say, that's so short
Wow,
that I predicted
short.
the exact moment that we cut to game. It's almost like I don't have people telling me to throw to game in my ear, right? That's
No,
beauty
this is
of
just the
broadcast.
highlights, right? That was there was a 5-minute break, and then this is the next part of the highlights.
Yeah, this is actually a complete rerun of map number 1 for anyone that
Yeah, this is
that
match
missed
of the day,
it.
folks. We match the day now. That's how this works. And well, let's see how this match changes, because as we get into game 2, I'm seeing if there's any deviation, any switch up in the plans, and I'm noticing a lack of exactly that, right? We're still seeing the contest over at Lava Siphon. Big Mod has essentially just become a freebie for one team, and of course UTFT still feel good about their start. They once again go towards Skyhook, but in the meantime we're looking on board with Mythic. Great performance in game 1, but similarly there, as once again we'll see, they will have to win a hot drop.
Well, they've done it once. Can they do it again? It would probably help if Teddy decided to land some shots, and well, if Sunny didn't get one tapped as well, but we're down to a 2 versus 2. Either way, though, only
Lordy.
Mastiffs and Wingmans available early doors here off this poor start to the looting stage. But too much sauce, unfortunately. They've dropped down to 2 players. There's only Trivia that is left alive to try and keep his squad up and running. But you've got Dennis and the mains left for the side of Mythic.
Oh man, what a rough way for that to play out as well. Milosh is barely any HP remaining, and the way that ends is grim. As too much stores get eliminated in a trade-off, Mythic still have one member alive, but the key detail I'm looking at there, Milosh is pretty much dead to rights, right? He's down to 1 HP. You wanna know how he died there, John?
Tell me.
It's a little bit of Sudoku happening right there, or Seppuku to be more accurate, because that was the drill charge from Maggie, him. He placed it and then jumped behind the cover, so he finished himself off. It's unfortunate it happens in the panic, but he was pretty much dead either way. It's just, I hope he doesn't let that kind of beat him up a little, right? We've all been there that moment. You know you're pretty much chalked. There's no way out, but to die like that at the very end is the kind of Omega lol, shrug it off type moment. Otherwise, it's going to eat at you for the rest of the day.
Well, one team left to ponder about their mistakes, the other left to reap the rewards, you can say that. But let's take a little look at this zone. You can see already it's going to be heading over towards landslide, dead straight in the middle. And although the standards have been a landslide up until this point, whether or not a team can continue off the back of that game number 1 to try and work some magic is yet to be seen.
Well, this will be one of the teams to try and do it. Murky, of course, only got 2 points in the last game, but they are currently in 4th place overall. This is one of the teams that can potentially nibble at the heels of UTFT and try to catch up. But Mythic aren't going to give that over for free. You'll notice them insta-rotate far, far away. In fact, even dropping off the guns as they go. Teddy says, I have no use for this. I am a 301 man through and through. This is going to push them far away from where they really need to be going. And do keep in mind that they don't have great rotational heroes and are rotating into an enemy team.
Here comes that rotation indeed. Whether or not it will be useful to them is
Oh, baby.
a story for a different day.
I don't think it's going to feel good if you run out of that tunnel into this. Like, Preds of the West have a really good position to contest you instantly. They also have a caustic. So if you rush in the building, it's probably gassed up. And if you try to rush back through the tunnel if you come out, you're probably going to have a gas grenade in your way. Like, this is an awkward situation, and they have walked out into the trap.
Here comes.
Straight away,
It's
okay.
gonna be,
That
lit
was
up
good
by
timing.
the looks of it.
No, they instantly got out there. That was the perfect way to play that. If Mythic had assaulted towards the buildings, I think they die in this situation. Their loot isn't that great. Their position feels almost untenable. And like I mentioned, you're up against this caustic. Like, it's going to have the gas everywhere. Traps on each doors. Then there's the potential for Nox gas to come out. Like, it was really to their fortune that it wasn't the caustic that spotted it and cut off the retreat straight away.
Well, fortunate that the other squad wasn't so fortunate, I guess, is what you could say, but
Well, we'll see.
way.
How's Fortune gonna roll for UTFT this time? The ring seems more generous for them, right? It's playing somewhat towards them. They still need to gravitate towards Fragment, though. The problem they might have is I've seen multiple teams rotate to Fragment ahead of UTFT across these weeks. So it might be that other teams get parked up first, content that the ring's going to stay here for a while. And from that, UTFT might be forced to try and run across the open and get picked off.
let's wait and see. I mean, UTFT, there's no way a squad that is as good as them, right, are going to make the same mistakes twice. Am I right in saying that? Or have I maybe cast a curse them and lightning may strike twice? But, you know, surely, I mean, I'm just thinking back, right? When was it that we jumped on the mic together last for the group? I think it was about 9 or so days ago, maybe. The early stages of the group stages. I remember seeing UTFT drop in game number 1 and win 3 games in a row after that.
Exactly. They just need to warm up. They just need to warm up. They just need to recalibrate, right? And Murky, oh boy, that's not the way they want this one to go. They did at least get a drop. They eliminate Preds and West, but they're going to waste a lot of time trying to recover and get in the ring here. Remember what I said, it's not that close to them, and they do not have the Valcol. So although they'll stay alive, I am worried about how much loot Murky are going to have available to them to use once they get back in the ring.
Let's wait and see. 8 squads remain, though. 24 players in total. Has been a bit more of a slower paced affair, you could say, this one, but that probably comes down to the fact that we didn't see 4 teams all drop on the same POI to kick things off here.
That tends to help.
But, you know, we often talk about these smaller lobbies. It's really when we get to the middle stage of the game, right, and those later stages where everything kicks off and can come to an abrupt end so quickly. When do you reckon that is going to be? I mean, what we're heading now into, you know, the start of round 2 in the next minute or so. In my opinion, we're going to start to see most of the action unfold around round 4.
I think you can see 2 to 3 teams drop in the next ring simply because it's pushing them towards fragment, and a lot of teams are rotating that way, right? You've got Murky that's coming in from outside the zone, I think Mythic as well, and you've already got teams over towards Landslide as well as Train Track. So I'm expecting this to be where the bloodbath begins, and keep in mind UTFT are essentially rotating constantly away from this. It might be that they arrived too late to pick up a bunch of valuable kill points.
For the side of Catjam, we mentioned they're the only team on the leaderboard right now or inside the top 10, right, that hasn't.
Do we have to highlight it? Do we have to remind them?
Yes, we definitely do, because I'm that guy and I like to make fun of people and be mean to people. Right?
Why did I give you this info to use? I feel like I set you up for this.
It's instant regret, right? It's what have I done here? But either way, though, I believe in the Catjam supremacy. All right, in Catjam Catjam is love, Catjam is life. Is basically what I'm trying to say. So
yeah, it feels like it's an appropriate name as well. Like every time we come on board with them, they seem like they're in a jam, but for once they're the ones causing the traffic jam here. Gang want to move through to the later ring, but they're unable to do so for free. The sprays are keeping them back. No one's getting a clean crack into an entry right now. But Gang now weaving around the side with this seed. This might be what they need to put their opponents over the edge. Catjam, they get backstabbed into. A little bit too deep coming out from Quick Draw. Will be taken down. Trade outs will commence as 1 down on each side. Catjam heavily injured on their series though. Rousey's also going to hit the deck. It's all on player to clutch this up. But open up the jetpack's not the way to go. Heavy spray coming both ways, and player on the edge of the abyss will be booted down the well. Poor little kitty's going home in a doggy bag.
Oh yeah, not the best of situations that Catjam found themselves in. Running into Gang, but Gang played that so well, right? They picked their moment, they waited for the aggression to come through from Catjam, and Catjam, inevitably, credit where credit is due, did find the first pick and the first knock in that engagement, but it was the backstab as well after the spread from Gang that really left Catjam in a bit of a pickle and a tough spot. But either way, though, unfortunately for Catjam, they're going to just have to wait another day or 2 to try and find that first, or at least another game, should I say, rather, to find that first.
Yeah, Murky, they thinking going Hunter Killer. When you use the Skyward Dive in an area like this, it's a little bit hard to find a good rotation, but they're going to attempt it anyway. I thought they were going to turn around for a target. Mythic are, of course, behind them. Mythic, the team that really popped off in game number 1 of today, but far out of contention unless they can consistently do back-to-backs. And what is it with this tunnel? We're back here again. Once again, it's turned into a bloodbath. Let's just see how many graves are going to be dug in this area.
I think we've got 4 teams maybe inside this tunnel, if
Lord.
I'm correct, or at least we've got 3 and another one coming over. But it's going to be the side of Franco Brits, obviously coming off that. Was it a 3rd or 2nd place finish in the last game? I think it might be the 3rd place finish.
They got the 3rd.
Of course,
yeah.
Next to Chess. They're a team that really can't afford another bad game here, because they're the one that want to try and close that gap at the top of the leaderboard. But with, this phase starting to
they're heavily injured though. Like their position's a little bit awkward. Great recovery coming out from AJ though. Nice, he gets the drop. What a turnaround. 2 members cracked and AJ comes through clutch. Now he can go on the assault while the rest of the team goes for the heals. Spray out is good and Gang get eliminated. Franco Brits looking on the edge of being taken out themselves, turn it about and now have control. They are the troll under the bridge.
Well, Horizon and the rest of the squad are going to go hunting for Teddy and Dennis, and Well, although Teddy sometimes can be cute and cuddly, I don't think you're going to want to run into a bullet or two of his, but for the side of Murky, have got the player advantage in this engagement, so they would back themselves 9 times out of 10 to get the job done and wrap the Christmas teddy bear up, to say the least. But either way, the damage definitely done as Dennis is going to fall. It's all up to Teddy left alive here. Murky are going to go hunting for this final kill, and although the round is going to close, it is only going to be phase number 2, of course, of that zone that's shifting its way in, so not too much damage to be dealt by the Storm just yet. But, I mean,
this is also why Sears are so annoying, right? It's like, you're an out rat, you're trying to survive. It's kind of an unfortunate knock-on effect of Sears' introduction to Apex, is like, you don't get rat players very often anymore. They're just going to keep hunting for that final member, and I think they will find him in the next minute.
well, it's almost impossible to be a rat player, right, when we've got a Sear on the other team. Like, you know, it quite literally tells you their pinpoint location, or at least pretty much bang on anyway, so... Yep, it's a tough spot. That's why Sear becomes so useful, especially in the final edges of the zone as well. Being able to have that information is so useful.
Oh man, Teddy might be in trouble as well. Wow, Teddy, he's braving the storm here. I thought that they were going to head for the tunnel, but they're aware that they're likely to get cut off by the team that just took him down, right? So now he has to wrap all the way around to what's also a bad location, because he's heading over towards the cavern tunnels that could easily turn into his own death trap.
Well, he's going to stroll into the top of the northwestern side of Harvester here, but he's also going to stroll into the line of sight of French, Get Roland, and Demos as well. So, yeah, it's a tough spot that he's going to find himself in, but fortunately, though, I think for him, they might have just turned their attention to a different engagement.
Now, in the meantime, UTFT, we talked about them getting a much more favorable spawn this time around where they start, and you can see they're already getting in position to be the gatekeepers for these final rings. Well equipped as well. Gold plus 2 purples. This is the way they usually like to format their squad. Sometimes they'll run double gold as well. It allows them to be resource efficient with the shield bats consistently. It just means they don't have to go running through the open to loot as many bodies. Instead, they can consistently hunt for kills.
Suits their playstyle perfectly. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? They're an aggressive team, and it seems to be working for them at the moment, but they have done one better than game number 1. They are sitting in 6th spot at the moment. Of course, just joined. They are our lobby leaders in terms of overall standings. They started today with 358 points, and, well, they didn't have the best of starts, finishing in 7th spot off the back of game number 1, and now into game number 2. They're looking to try and bounce back and get back to the UTFT that we know them to be.
Oh, are they going for the charge rifle follow-up? I think that was the plan there. Yeah, so they'll get some damage. It's not going to be quite enough, though. I think they've only got 1 member running long-range charge rifles here, which is interesting because it seems the whole objective is to stay far, far away from combat. Not the case over here, though. Jets, the similar location we saw them to last time, but this time they are not going to be denied entry. Instead, they're going to be the ones denying entry to their opponents.
Well, that's because I think it was JLo who found so much damage, completely ripped the Evo and put the player down to just 1 HP or so. They're going to now force the engagement on, but by doing that, has lightning struck twice? I think it has. The missile swarm's going to come in from Horizon. That's going to drop Nick. Well, up goes Marito, and down goes the players from Chets. And unfortunately for Chets, they've had the same exact situation, albeit in a different point of the game, happen again. They get too aggressive, and it costs them their life.
And I'm not entirely sure if he meant to drop the Newcastle wall there. It felt like a little bit short. Possibly that was the original goal, but sometimes you look to go a little bit further forward to push your opponents back to get that stun wall up. They didn't really deny much there, and unfortunately, because he makes that jump and the down happens instantly at the same time, he's the one who's meant to be medic. He's meant to be reviving, because as we know, a Newcastle can, as I like to call it, walk the dog to res people up. His teammate had to try for the res, and that meant that he was essentially 1v3ing, and then his teammate has to take over in 1v3. Just unfortunate circumstances, the way that plays out means they go out quite early, but Franco Brits in the meantime are looking to stack up more kills. Deimos already goes down, 2 members remain, 1 of them heavily injured, and just 1 tap, even a breeze in his direction will bring him to the floor. It looks like Franco Brits are going to lock in some much needed points as they take out Augulus.
Yeah, they jump into the top 4 once again, so aiming for back-to-back podiums, like he said here, coming into game number 2. They do spot 1 team on the Valkyrie deploy. That's going to be a gold and a purple chunk of damage coming off the team in the air. I'm not quite too sure what team that was. That
UTFT
actually was rotated. It was UTFT that they've walked into, so that's not a bad bit of damage.
Yeah, remember they played this spot last game as well. It's weird because they essentially just forfeited ring position. I think it's because UTFT haven't got any kills, and they've realized that they like kills. I don't know if you noticed this, John, but UTFT having 148 kills so far in this tournament do like taking life.
I wouldn't have guessed it, mate. To be totally honest with you, I thought they would have been a bit more slow-paced, hug the ring, hug the zone kind of style of players. But, hey, you know what? I mean, we're okay to be wrong once in a while as casters, right? But either way, though, UTFT, like you said, they do like kills. They got to go hunting, and they're going to do just that. It's going to be Jack who finds a few pieces of damage. Up he goes.
Quite a few pieces. Good lord, in return there, Horizon takes him out. I think UTFT are out here.
I think they are. I think, it's happening. Oh my god, it's happening. I think that's the gif anyway.
No kill points.
That's from the other. No KP at all. Oh dear, I think they got, what, maybe 1 or 2 placement points as well, finishing in full spot. UTFT, they're having a nightmare here so far in playoff day 1.
That was their own greed, their own gluttony as well. They had good position to try and get at least placement first place, which is worth a lot of points. They got greedy, they got punished, and now Murky are looking to continue that punishment the next targets. You see, they're the ones with the kill lead. I think they have 12 kills total between the 3 members. They are on a blitzer right now. Let's see if they can follow through and take out Franco Brits that are likely to be their biggest contest here.
Yeah, well, with the Mokeke, it's going to be so much damage ripping through the shields and the life of players. 2 enemy shields have been broken with the bow in hand. He's going to charge his way on through. It's going to be JC who drops Marito. So Franco Brits, though, they were sitting in 3rd spot last game. Already a top 3 finish guaranteed. They want to try and go one better and pick it up into the 2nd spot. Murky, they were looking great already. But just like that, as soon as Marito falls into the Marsh to follow, and the squad that wiped up UTFT could be on the brink of elimination themselves. As I say that, it's going to be Horizon who falls. Franco Bits, they secure themselves another 3 kills. But most of all, that 2nd place finish. But here comes Teddy.
Whoa, yeah, but here comes Teddy. That it's only Teddy. Teddy versus the world right now. Mythic would love to lock up back-to-backs, but if they're going to do it, it comes down to one Bangalore with a blue shield. Has got the 301, the Mastiff, so maybe you can follow through the damage, but you need to find a way of separating your targets. Right now, they're unlikely aware that this is a solo. But as soon as they realize it, they are full gonna ape and send it.
Comes Teddy once again, but he's shield instantly wrapped off. He gets the gold shield switch!
It's
For a
not good
second,
enough.
I thought he was going to be able to do a bit of damage onto the players, but it wasn't good enough. And that's unfortunate for the side of Murky, or sorry, for Mythic, but I think it's Murky who take 1st spot, right? If I'm correct.
It's Franco Brits. Franco Brits take
Brits.
1st spot, and it means that Mythic will not get the back-to-back. They have to settle for 2nd. But what a performance coming out, Franco Brits. They fully accept that UTFT and Murky had essentially relegated themselves to an ineptitude or an inability to win this. They come through with that patience, follow through to get themselves some much-needed points. Franco British Union, of course, the 2nd place team now add to that score. And after a short break, we'll be talking more about that difference now as UTFT once again fail to make big point games.
Yeah, well, we are going to have all the breakdown and all the reaction to that game number 2. Where does Franco Brit sit on the standings? We'll find out after this short break. KP, Mr. Killer Pigeon. I didn't call you the killer of pigeons or pigeon killer this time, by the way. I got it right. Either way, we've seen 2 fantastic games so far, KP. We've seen back-to-back decent performances from the side of Franco Brits. Not the best of performances from UTFT. We now switch over to Storm Point. Is it going to happen?
Maybe, like, you know, UTFT, can they be grounded this? Do they know where they need to go? Because that's the thing, right? Like, if you think about it, one big edges they've had as great fraggers as the weeks have gone on is people's predictable nature. They get their drop for free and they get to rotate out. Do people know where UTFT go on Storm Point? Are they going to be contested on landing? Are things going to go well, considering so far they can't decide if they want to play for placement or for kills? Because that's really what happened in the second game. They optimized for placement with really good final ring spots, and then they rotated out of that position and put themselves in quite the jam. And I believe there was a Genji in the chat saying the double wing you didn't go well. Yeah, don't say, bud. That might be because you haven't done it yet. You did promise to do it at some point today. You've got 2 more games. You better not disappoint me.
We will be heartbroken, devastated. We will probably retire from Apex Legends casting and gameplay if we do not see the double wingman. Then again, though, after listening to us for the past however long, you might want us to retire. That's the thing. That's the way the chat troll works, right? But either way, no, we are heading over to Storm Point now, right, Darren? And it's a completely different map when played with, you know, a full actual competitive Apex Legends lobby. So let's hypothetically say that we're going to have a traditional Apex Legends game going into Storm Point. What differences are we going to expect to see between the likes of a Storm Point, which is slightly bigger, to the likes of World's Edge?
I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 teams actually try to use the bikes. It's not a very popular thing to do, because usually one of the big issues is it makes you very kind of clunky, unwieldy, and it's very audible. You can't ever sneak up on people. And remember, the way that the bikes work in Apex Legends is that any part of the bike gets shot, that damage gets spread amongst its passengers. So if there's 3 of you, take less, but all of you take that damage. But I think you just might need it. Like, the only other way you play this is if you're looking to be an aggressive team. If you want to rotate kill, 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 you have to play top of hill, because for those unaware, the way Storm Point works is if you actually look at it from a side angle, it's a giant slope going down. So if you start up in areas such as Lightning Rod, maybe High Point or Thunderwatch, you can keep rotating down from there with Valk ults, because you just gain more ground. The downside, though, think about this, John. If I thought about that, and I'm not exactly a very smart person, I'm sure there are plenty of clever folks in this lobby that have had the same idea. We could lose half the teams at the beginning of this lobby.
Yeah, don't talk yourself down. There's a reason why you've worked on the likes of ALGS, and I'm not doing too much Apex Legends these days. All right, you've definitely got a bit of a bigger brain than me, to say the least. Anyway, but you know, I dropped out of private education after 3 years, so that says a lot about my academics, doesn't it? But either way, no, we are. I'm really looking forward to heading to Storm Point now. I'm looking to see the way that these 2 teams, you know, these 2 maps vary in play style for the teams that we've got going on, because, like you said, you know, the way the map is structured, height can be a very, very big thing to have in the later stages of the game, but also for that rotation as well, should the zone start to pull away. I'm really excited to see how the likes of the Valk ults will be used for the redeployers on this, and even, you know, the likes of Sears, for example, being able to reveal locations in certain tricky spots, I think is definitely something that we can talk about. And I'm just excited for it in general. So we are going to be heading to the final 2 maps of Storm Point very, very soon. I'm excited. I want to get into the lobby. You know, I'm ready to go. I really want to see these games. I want to see UTFT die every single game first from now on until the final game of the playoffs, because then they're like, wow, we actually have to try and win the game.
Bias caster. You could have been like, I wish we could just like pay out a fraction of the prize pool now and have them reset from 0. But you went there. You're like, yeah, I just want to see UTFT get dogged on every game, dragged through the mud and spanked left to right by different teams. I mean, I'm kind of game for it. You know, I think, you know, ego too big to quote chat. Oh, okay, I can't do Genji like that. we joke about it, but you know, this is a talented team though. Like, they've been turning up as expected. You know, they are trying to compete in the LGS. They are a very competent team, and I think they've been proving that. It's just one thing you have to keep in mind is like the consistency, right? Like, the crazy part for UTFT is they might not consistently win these games, but they consistently pop off at some point in the day. Hence why they have 50% of the total wins played so far in this tournament.
And that's the problem, and it goes back to the point I made halfway through that map, right, where it was, a couple weeks ago when we first did the I think it was play day 2 actually in the group stages. We saw UTFT place top 10, I think, in one of the lobbies, and then we saw them literally go 3 games back to back, dropping 20 kills in every single game. So you can keep them quiet, but it's how long can you keep them quiet for? But again, I don't want to focus too much on UTFT. I want to say I don't think it's been too much that UTFT have been playing bad. I think we've got to give huge props to the like of Franco Brits, to the like of Chets, Mythic, Murky, who have really stepped it up to the plate. Now we're heading into this playoff stage.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of them actually banged big there, right? Franco, British Union, I think they got 23 points overall. Murky got 18. Mythic even managed to net 12, despite how they got roughed up in the end. It's just really impressive to see them coming out. And of course, UTFT, they got 5 again, John. It's like, it's the pattern number maybe for today. Of course, I expect to see some switch-ups. Like I said, they're not necessarily going to get that early aggression. Maybe this time around they play for placement, but less indecisive, I want to say, because there's no denying that they switched from wanting placement to wanting kills when there was 4 teams left. Maybe a little bit worrisomely late to do that. One other cool thing to think about is, although Stormpoint is a lot bigger, we might not see the charge rifle they ran last time, because I think it's easier to weave into these mid to close range areas as you navigate the map. And if they want to be in a full send it mode, then that's actually going to be more beneficial than going for long range type formats.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think what we saw, the charge rifle used at least quite a bit in map number 2 just then on World's Edge, but it wasn't really to the best of use. I think we saw it crack up 1 or 2 shields, but nothing really too much deadly to deal with. But we are going to be bringing you game number 2 relatively soon. I do want to eventually jump into the standards, which I think we'll be getting ready for us in just a few moments. But before we do that, blindly, I want you to react here, Darren. Oh, not blindly.
Very blindly.
Oh, maybe blindly. But we'll have that conversation after, because I'm about to ask you, where do you think the point difference is between first and second right now? If my mental maths are correct, I think they've probably reduced 150 point lead to around 120, 110.
Yeah,
but we're going to head on into Stormpoint though. Let's jump into this Stormpoint.
Exactly. Screw the map. We leave that for the end. Instead, the only map I want is count 1, 2, 3 as I rack up the kills, and that's looking like the start of this game. UTFT and Catjam have both just dropped at the wall. Well, UTFT, maybe this is the game where they can get more than 5 points, because Catjam are a little bit paranoid about where they're getting struck from.
Either that or this is the game that the ultimate cat resurgence, that they do it for all the strays out on the streets to gain themselves their first win. But UTFT are a bit of a hard task to deal with already. It's going to be the enemy Watson. Is going to have the shield broke as well. So Ness and the squad from UTFT are going to work their way through and try and find up a little bit of damage. But Ness is going to have the shield broken as well. Does get knocked. Genji is knocked. Jack, hello, are you still alive? It's happening, Darren. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
So wait, we're going from 5 points to no points? Unless they can clutch up, but they're unable to do. Look at the health bars of Catjam. UTFT, what is going on? They are not going to the moon. They're just going 6 feet, 12 feet, 18 feet under.
Oh no. Oh, UTFT. How has it happened? I think we should rename them to Ultimate Throwing for them. I think that is their new abbreviation. I think that's the way that it works from now on.
You know what it could be, like, because you kept calling TFT from time to time. It could be unknown team fight tactics, but the reason they're unknown is because they don't work.
They don't know how to play as a team, even though they're very much top of our table for that reason.
Part is, like, they're trying, and it starts off well. Like, I really like the play with the lift on the back door, so that they can get roof, and their opponents can't come out of that door at all. But then they just try to break this door. They try to rush it through. No throwables through the window whatsoever. Catjam, they understood. Like, together, ape strong, and they prove exactly that as they King Kong the Kings right now, own the overall leaderboards out first in this lobby.
And that, do you know what? That is right there. Can you hear that? Can you hear that melodical, angelic voice? That is music to the ears of the likes of Franco Brits, Chets, Murky, Mythic, all the teams just behind them. And well, speaking of Devils, they'll appear. Chets, they are in an absolute dream situation that they find themselves in now. They know a big old high-scoring game of 15, 20 odd kills could see them shoot way on up into the top of those leaderboards, and JLo, he's leading the way. It's going to be Blade who falls and Blade dies.
Yeah, you have to wait until, what, 2023, 2024 to see the resurgence of Blade when it comes to Marvel Studio Cinemas, but aren't really seeing it so far here in the tournament. Instead, as you mentioned, Chet's, of course, one of those top teams that can really make it run it up, but they need a big performance. Really looking at Franco-British Union right now as the trendsetters. They're showing some consistencies today. They've got over a 40-point lead over third place, and now with UTFT scoring a big fat 0, it's a golden opportunity for Franco-British Union to shrink UTFT's lead to under 100 points.
I mean, if I asked you coming into the start of this game, do you think that we will head into the next stage of playoffs with a little bit more of an interesting affair and around a 50-point difference or a 70-point difference going into the final stages of the game? You would have probably bit my hand off, spat at me and laughed at me and called me an absolute fool. But listen, it can potentially happen. But again, this is UFT, sorry, UTFT. Now you said that we should call them unknown team fighting tactics. That's just going to be stuck in my head, isn't it? But you know, they've not played the best. But again, I think it comes down to these other teams that are really finally starting to step it up in the playoffs. Even the likes of Capjam, for example. Yes, okay, they didn't find the best of situations out of it because they lost a lot of their health. But guess what? They're in a lot better spot than the side of UTFT are because they're the ones that are alive and kicking. But
yeah,
9 squads left, of course.
You know, my final thought on it is actually last round they were underperforming team fighting themselves, right, with their indecision. But now they're fully switched up. They're just getting blitzed. And I was worried this was going to happen to someone when we opened on the first Storm point. I was surprised it was UTFT, but it's a good surprise, at least from the competitive angle. It means other people get a much-needed opportunity to catch up. And with teams like Murky, Mythic, and Franco-British Union turning up and consistently scoring between 15 to 20 points on a lot of these rounds, this might actually be where we finally feel like there's a real competition for the remaining days of the playoffs.
Well, Storm Point, we started it with a bang, but this is probably the stage of the Storm Point.
Yeah, let's get slow.
A little bit more slower and.
Hey, there's the bangs. PvE.
This is where the viewers mute tab and don't have to listen to casters waffling on for 20 minutes because we're waiting
he got a
for the next
Spectre!
bit.
He got another Spectre! He got another Spectre!
Cologne is nuts!
Okay, we're gonna stop now. If you really need to know how they're feeling about the game right now, just notice that UTFT, Franco-Brits here, Clone has literally not ADS once to kill these bots. He's in full casual mode.
This is what a game of Storm Point will do to a man, right? That's exactly.
I find it refreshing.
I'm all for it.
I was begging for Broken Moon. I would have loved to see Broken Moon as well, but I'll always take Storm Point. You know, I think Storm Point is the best balanced competitive map, right? If you're playing like ALGS or proper competitive Apex like this, it's better, right? Not so much if you want to be like full like chimp and send it, but from a strategic standpoint, it doesn't really get much better than this right now.
No, I do. I love it, and most recently I find myself casting a lot of Storm Point when dealing with Apex Legends, and again, I think it just has the perfect, you know, traditional battle royale feel to the way that the map is played. You know, everything from contestants on drop spots up to like that slow-paced middle rotational phase, and then into that crazy hectic end stage where you see the phases and the rounds really start to bring these teams close together. And I'm a huge fan of it. I again would like to see Broken Moon like yourself. That's obviously a little bit of a fast-paced, chaotic vibe at times, and especially with the smaller numbers, it would have probably shifted our games for a little bit quicker tonight. But listen, we're here for a good time, not a short time.
Yeah, but right now Murky aren't opening up a good time. Gang have control of the roof, and they're not going to make it easy here. Break on the doors would be catastrophic. Scan through to interrupt the heals. A breakthrough as well. An opportunity to take one. Kagi goes down. So now in a 2v3. Push through. Drought is going to be brought low, but good assistance coming out. Marito didn't able to drop one. Now it's going to be down to that one-on-one as they trade out. It all comes down to this. Shields are blocking the way as Horizon's going to stay alive, and it will be too much source going out elsewhere on the map. But in this matchup, it looks like Murky might be able to clutch up. Horizon keeps the team alive. They will be in control over at Stormcatcher.
Yes, so good from Horizon and the side of Murky. He danced around the shields like a ballerina on ice, you could say. There's fantastic stuff from them. Keeps himself alive and kicking. And well, speaking of teams that start with them, Mythic, they're hanging out towards the edge of zone. They've been a little bit of damage dealt, but no doubt it's only a few ticks of damage here and there, obviously in the early stages of these first few rounds. But like, either way, they don't want to give themselves too much to do and rotate late on in, because Storm Point, it can be a hard-ass map to try and rotate your way into if someone's someone's gatekeeping, holding the edge of zone. It's going to be a real tough spot to follow.
Yeah, and luckily for the clash here at Stormcatchers, Mythic aren't rushing out here fast, right? Because if they used the cannon and fired in there, they would have got the third party, they would have cleaned up another team, and it would have been a big boon for them, because Mythic, of course, one of those teams that want every point they can get. They'll definitely take freebies. And they were looking for points, by the way. Remember what I said in the pregame when we were moving on to Storm Point? Is that I expected multiple teams to play top side of the map for easier rotations. Mythic were the only team, by looks of it, to head up towards Thunderwatch, Lightning Rod, High Point area, which was very surprising to me. I was expecting to see at least 3 teams, at least on the first map, up in that area together.
Well,
oh, sorry, they had one team, right? They just took out that. Sorry,
yeah,
I just noticed to switch over Teddy. Teddy literally has 3 kills. So they did get some contest, but still a lot less than I was expecting.
It was like that GIF, from The Hangover, all the mathematical equations are going on in my head, and I'm thinking...
It's too many numbers tonight, John. It's too many numbers.
I'm not quite sure that was right, but I think we'll go with it anyway. But either way, 7 squads left, 18 players in total. That's the correct mathematics to tell you how many players are left alive in this game. Or, as I say that, this 18 player does fall down to 17. It's going to be JC who inevitably falls, and for the side of Mythic, Teddy though carrying on from where they left off, already sitting at 3 kills, trying to find a few more.
Yeah, Murky. You could not be comfortable with their position right now. Usually you don't want to be on the low side like this unless you're planning to leave. And I think Horizon is signaling for that. They just want to maybe get the hell out of Dodge. Get a less hotly contested location. Because there's no denying trying to hold Stormcatcher. For anyone who's played Storm Point in a pub game, it's the worst feeling ever. Feels like everyone's coming for you. And instead, everyone on this team is going to be going for one straggler. Clone is out alone with no chaperone tonight. And he might be going down in the next minute.
Clone trying to get himself out of trouble if he can. I think, like you said, probably is going to fall in the next minute or 2 unless he can try and doppelganger his way out of trouble. But I still have the shield to work with, of course. That Evo, the purple Evo, being a little bit harder to take off than others. He's done a great job of getting away and still keep himself alive here to try and not only gain a few extra placement points, but potentially pick up a few free kills later on in the game. But for the side of Franco Brits, that's not what they wanted, though, is it? They've seen UTFT have dropped early. They've come off the back of a map win. They needed to really see this through and try and put at least another top 3 placement in with another good 10 or so kills. So.
No opportunity, right? Like that's the worst part. It's like, you can't say you can come back in this and the team can net 6 kills. Like you're basically gonna be the rat on the side looking for scraps on the main meal. Maybe you get a kill here, maybe you get a 2nd or 3rd place finish. It's probably the most you can hope for. It's definitely gonna add, like, let's say you get a kill alongside that, 6, 7, maybe 8 points in. But when you consider there's still over 100-point difference between you and 1st place, you probably don't feel good that a map like this is passing you up.
Well, is it a chance that's going to pass them up one too many times? That's the question, right? I mean, for now, they've still got 1 player alive and kicking, and well, we've seen some crazy 1v whatevers in Apex Legends, but it's easier said than definitely done. But we are. It's the best gameplay we've seen all night.
Yeah, I know. Like honestly, that right there was UTFT's perspective for most of this game, seeing as they went out in the first minute.
You were blaming me for flaming earlier.
I'm just presenting the facts, dog. I don't know what you want from me. Maybe that, what that probably was. That was the final member. That was Clone. He was hiding in a cave somewhere. It's that dark. But right now, Clone is hunting for kills. Kiranuzi in a lot of trouble. Clone just needs to commit, and they look to switch locations. No, there's no way. If you somehow pull this off, Mr. Ratatouille will not. Clone will get the elimination. We'll have enough time to heal, so get some points on the board. Wait. You need to finish it, though, Clone. Where's his team?
He's trying to prioritize healing, if I'm
yeah, but where's his team?
correct. But
Where is the owner of this member here? Kira, where is the team? What?
I'm so confused.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. It's like, whoever has lost the Kiranuzi, can they report to the security desk? Right, we found them because there was no one near there. It was just a one-on-one out in no man's land. Meanwhile, over here, Murky are looking to spill blood. Kage will be able to get rid of the mains. Horizon is incredibly low, but we'll get the heal off just in time. Follow-up looks good as well, so it looks like they are going to be solid for the moment. Remains is going to go down, but Denise on the high ground feeling confident. Murky are going to be eliminated. Mythic will extend their gains.
Yeah, I think that's what, like 17 kills I think they've got between them in terms of overall standing. So great stuff for the side of Mythic. And were they were the team that
They
won.
took the first win, right? They've been basically
won as well.
climbing. It's actually miraculous the way they're doing this. I think they're going to end up in the top 5 after this game now with the way they're playing, exceeding where Too Much Sauce were. It's really impressive to go from, I think it's 9th to 5th after 3 games.
Well, I mean, impressive stats to say the least. If they was to go from 9th to top spot by the end of the event, I think that would be comeback of all comebacks, right? And that deserves its own documentary series on itself. But long way to go though. Still, Chet's Esports just behind Mythic as well. They're fighting in that sort of top 3, top 4 spots to try and get themselves back and alive in this UK Prem. And, well, for Nick is gonna find the first. French is gonna fall, so not a bad start.
Is it kind of weird that the guy called French isn't on the Franco-Brit Union team? I don't know, like, did he even apply? It feels like the rejected application there, but, you know, Chet's definitely getting some needed points. However, they are going to need to follow up. There's still remnants to this team. They have good position, good heals right now. Need to be careful in case a team comes in behind them. That's a paranoia lying in wait. I think Clone is going to be rotating from the west, so if this fight does start to go awkwardly for Chets, they could end up getting third-partied by the Rat.
Well, third parties are something that we always talk about, right, in Apex, but on a map like Stormpoint as well, where it is so much more widespread, I think the bang for buck can be a little bit more inside than those third parties on the map like Stormpoint.
Oh,
so
there's the Rat. Wait, is that August? I think it's August up top. Oh, we didn't think about this. August are playing like the most toxic spot on the map, and now Chets are trying to rotate into it. I hope they aren't going to commit to this. Like, I don't know if you ever tried rushing a team up there. It never works.
oh, it's dreadful. It's nothing but death waiting on death to happen. But Franco Brits, they do get eliminated in the end. They bow out in 5th spot, so 4 squads remain, 10 players in total. We could probably see this drop down to 3 squads. Are they going to send the rotation?
Yeah, I think they're going to send 1 on one rope, 2 on the other. There it is, yeah. So they go for this split, and there's going to be concentrated fire coming on 1. The other 2 will break through. I think they're aware this is either 1 rat or only 2 people.
Well, what will happen?
Have they left?
We're about to-
How underwhelming. August is just leaving.
Don't want to say that was anticlimaximal, but it was definitely anticlimaximal to say the least. But the rotation does come through from both squads.
Oh,
now,
God,
and,
no.
well,
August.
August, get rolled, my friend. He dives straight in to Cat Jam. That's going to be Lawrence to find the 3rd kill for them in this game. 9 players left, all 3 trio standard.
Yeah, I had a feel. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's a team down here, and you just see it come out awkwardly for them. And this is the thing, like, there might be a follow-up. I'm really hoping Chets don't just follow in the footsteps here, because if I'm not mistaken, Catjam are just going to camp there. They're going to be content. More people must be coming. Like, why would August fall for the high ground that quickly? But this is the more important fight. Mythic on the slopes, but on the lower side. We've seen them scale up this hill successfully before. Can they do it again?
Can they do it again? That's the question. Are they going to answer it, though? I mean, I think one thing they don't want to do is put themselves in a situation that the likes of Chets and Franco found themselves in, right? They want to be the ones, the supreme opportunists, that you could say, to just take the game out of the grasp of the other squads, and I think they do that so well in Chets. Well, have they learnt from their mistakes, or are they gonna make the same mistakes twice and have history repeat itself?
Well, this will be the biggest fight, right? Chets versus Mythic. Mythic, the one quickly pipping up points fast. Chets in need of it if they even want to catch up with 2nd place at this rate. Let's see how it plays out. Of course, Mythic definitely came in looking strong to this fight. Red shields all around. Chets a little bit under-equipped for this circumstance. And of course, Catjam are playing low side, so unlikely that they are going to play favorably to help you in a third-party situation here.
Sometimes you just got to ask the opponents to do the dirty work for you, right, and capitalise on it. Either way, though, I think the engagements will start coming through sooner rather than later. Nick does get tagged up relatively heavily. The shield battery does come through, but he returns fire. But on the red shield, it's going to take a few more bullets than just 1 or 2 to do any sort of damage. And already you can see how widespread out these three teams are, right? They've all got spots that probably could turn into favorable spots.
Yeah, but Cat Jam can play Max Greek for here, right? Like Cat Jam are a team that definitely could go on a blitzer for the next few days, but they're basically the fourth worst performing team right now. Yet they're in a position to either be Kingmaker or take the crown for themselves. This time off the back of a Kraber. Like this is, and the teams have to come to them, right? Everyone's got to run out to the open, but Cat Jam can stay on the high ground longer. And they've already found one. Coach gets dropped.
Lawmans finds one on Coach as well. Kraber still in the hands of Rousey, trying to get rowdy indeed. And
Wait, they got double Kraber?
wait, is that?
Yeah, Lawman's killed. That's double Kraber. What? It better not be triple Kraber, or I'm gonna ask for a refund on this game. Like what? There's no way, right?
I think we might actually have a triple Kraber set up. I think you're correct.
I think it's like 301 and 2 Krabers. Yeah, it's a 301 being popped off by player, but Lawman's definitely got a drop with the... It's double Kraber. What in the RNGesus is this?
Well, listen, they're not going to complain about it, are they? Cat Jam very well and truly jamming away to the sounds of the Kraber shots, and they obviously have got the ideal spots. 140 tag as well. That's going to rip the shield and life off one of those players. Such a tough spot. Oh, is the head just going to show over the top? I think it did. I think Rousey just clips the head and finds the knock onto J-Lo.
Yep.
And they're going to go hunting as well. I love the fact that they've instantly closed the gap.
Wait, and they didn't want to be on that zipline, by the way. If they ziplined across, they would have been clapped on by the other team as well. Return fire for the one they just downed. So with J-Lo on the ground, they're looking to exploit this right now. You can see the push coming in from the other side by Mythic. Cat Jam, they just say let them do each other in. We'll clean up the scraps that are left over. Arkstar being thrown forward. Looks like I can do it locked on. Does get the crack after the stick. Notice that they're not pushing too hard because one issue with Cat Jam is if they whiff these shots, they're almost out of Kravers. Jets are going to be eliminated, so it comes down to this. Cat Jam versus Mythic. Shield's going to be set up now as the stuns come through. Nice position to hold. But notice that Mythic are fully suited and booed. Full reds, limited Kraber shots remaining, and 2 Kravers means that you are not suited for close combat.
Yeah, they're going to go and charge forward to try and close that gap as well. Already sitting at, I think, 7 kills. Dennis going to make it 8. Gonna make it 9, I think, in the hands of Teddy. It's all up to one remaining player. They fall. Mythic find the second game of the day.
What way to do it, Mythic. It didn't look good with Cat Jam being on that high ground with double Kraber, but they understood the rotation. As long as they're not the one that gets down initially, you're going to see both teams essentially panic in that moment. Cat Jam want to lock the kills in, and then, of course, the team that you've just sniped want to try and recover. Gives a golden opportunity for Mythic to push in, and I love the fact that they understood. If there's double Kraber, it means they can't fight us close quarters unless RNG Or this situation, UTFT being blocked out time and time again, and now Mythic winning their second game means that they are starting to climb the ranks while UTFT is frozen on the spot. I'm back with John to break down the action, and what a way to open up on Stormpoint, John. Just when we think UTFT can't score lower, they do, and just when we think we know the teams that are going to be blitzing it in these late circles, Catjam come in and change the script.
Yeah, I feel a little bit upset, and commiserations go out, and my heart goes out to the Catjam players because it was so close to picking up that first win of the competition. But they just get edged out by the side of Mythic, of course. And, you know, Mythic, credit where it is very much due. They have been pretty much lights out so far today. And again, you know, we've seen two sides of Mythic. We've seen, the ultimate opportunists in game number 1 to just steal the game away out of a poor rotation from the side of Chet's and Franco. But then we've seen the engagers, right? The ones that want to take the fight and take the game out of the hands of Catjam, where they aggress them there, in the final phase. So I think it sets us up for a fantastic final game of the day, a really interesting final game of the day as well, because we could see that lead go under 100 points. Like we mentioned, it could already be there for all we know. Who knows? Yeah. And I'm really interested to see. I would love to get on board with UTFT straight off the rip to see where they go and to see if a team can contests them, because they can't afford too many more mistakes.
That's the thing. Like, people probably think this is like the UTFT fanboy club, but like I think that's one of the notable details for that game specifically, because that was the only hot contest, right? Immediately on landing that occurred. So then you've got asked, do Catjam want to try and dodge that out? Probably not. They're feeling confident after what they done last game, even though they didn't win it. Does UTFT rotate away? What's the chances they clash somewhere else? I'm still wondering if we get a ship start over near that high point where you've got things like Lightning Rod, are we going to see more than 2 teams there now? And as a result of that, who's going to come out ahead? Because right now, if UTFT continue to flop like they are, the reason it's important to keep highlighting them is every time they fail, it is an opportunity for these teams lagging behind to catch up, and they are doing so in bounds. Mythic last game locked in another 22 points. I think they've gained about 50 to 60 points so far today, which is boosting them even further. I believe they've now jumped straight up into 5th place. They are admittedly about 50 to 60 points behind 4th, but they're hot and they are closing ground fast.
Yeah, and I think that's the big talking point, right? Is how quickly can they continue to close that ground and pile the pressure onto the sides of UTFT, and these sides behind them, they've not really given them an inch to breathe in so far today. So I'm really intrigued to see if they can keep that pressure on, because when pressure starts to build, it is a tough thing to have weighing down on your shoulders. And I think we might already have seen a bit of that creep in. Game number 2 in particular, we saw UTFT play placement for 90% of the game. Yeah. And then they looked at the scoreboard and was like, wait, Chet's and Franco Brits have both picked up sort of 7 or 8 kills already in this game. I now want to play for kills. The first team that they ingress on, they instantly get wiped up because it's a bit too over-aggressive and too split. So I think maybe the side of UTFT might even be in their own heads a little bit here.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Especially now that you've moved on a new map. Like, here's the thing, right? You get in this kind of state of flow, don't you? When you're popping off, you're having a good time. You don't have to change everything. Everything's working really well. Outside of micro adjustments, that's how it's been for UTFT week after week. It's almost become stagnant. That's why Stormpoint really refreshes things. Obviously, UTFT flopped hard on World's Edge as well, but now you have that added variable of a different map where it might not be their speciality. There might be other teams in here, like Mythic, like Murky, or as we saw Catjam, that love to go on Stormpoint. That's the reality that exists anywhere in Apex competition. When you look at LGS as well, we talk about these different teams. We often say they do a lot better on World's Edge. In fact, when you break down, I'd say most of the mid-pack teams, they frequently have these situations where they're underwhelming on World's Edge and amazing on Stormpoint, or vice versa.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, and I mean, I want to just quickly highlight the point of, Stormpoint and how differently that game probably played from the likes of World Edge in particular as well, because it was that real slow-paced middle stage that allowed us to get up to that final stage of the game where it was a little bit more explosive and a little bit more firecracker, but it come off the back of that aggressive start from UTFT dropping, of course.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the way the mid game played out here. Like hunting rats is probably the best way to kind of summarize it, right? Looking for the remainders of squads. And it's interesting because in some ways there's a lot more open grounds and a lot of choke points that can make you predictable. But those choke points naturally give you barriers to block incoming fire. I think that's why we saw people like Clone narrowly escape death so efficiently, is because of that lay of the land with Storm Point. And the beautiful thing is with the map being so big and so wide, you can just run for what feels like an infinity. And with only half a lobby, you'll probably find no one blocking your way forward.
Well, I mean, look, you know, it's called Storm Point for a reason. Sometimes people just want to jump straight to the point and get on into the storm and create some thunder and lightning, right? But I don't know about you, but I want to do that. We've got game number 4 ready, pretty much lock and loaded to come to you in just a few short moments' time. And I want to give you a bit of a tough task here to say... Are UTFT going to bounce back, or are we going to see Mythic go for the 3-peat, for example, to try and find 3 wins today, or can one of Franco, Brits, or Chet's pick up a dub?
I think if Genji doesn't want to be labeled a dishonorable man, wants to honor the agreement they gave me, the UTFT are going to do badly. Because Genji did say the final game that they would run double wingman. And if you have to run double wingman, with how these early CQ fights have been going, my friend, you might be first back to the loading screen. So we'll just have to see if they honor that agreement, if they rotate somewhere else. I think, you know, part of it has been UTFT, at least in 1 or 2 games, maybe not having the clear goal in mind. I think game number 2 definitely had that element to it that cost them dearly. But I don't want to discredit the other teams, right? You think the likes of what we've seen from Franco-British Union, what we've seen from Chet, Murky, and Mythic all turn up. Catjam even last game done an amazing job. I think it's the fact that a lot of these teams are starting to catch on to what UTFT has been doing and what's been working so well, and they are going out of their way to counter that.
Well, we've just got confirmation the players are in the lobby. They're loading on into the map. So in a few short moments and seconds time, we'll be heading into Storm Point for the second time in the final game of the day. It's play day 7 into round number 4. The quarterfinals are slowly but surely getting their way through the games. And how vital is this game going to be in the standings?
We'll have to find out. Remember, this quarterfinals, we've still got 2 days packed full of action after this. So if the comeback continues, we could still be in for a feisty finals. But let's see how we're going to close out today with game number 4. It looks like we're already going to see a contest. It is going to be UTFT again up against Catjam, who were the 2nd place team in map number 3. Not only that, we're also going to find a clash over towards checkpoint. But let's check in and see if UTFT can survive the landing.
Well, that's going to be the first point of protocol for the side of UTFT, and I think Nez has looked at that and gone, nope, don't want anything to do with that, but he might want something to do with it just now as the shield does get cracked, and for the side of UTFT, oh no, is Nez going to fall? He does find one Jax there, Catjam are eliminated.
Oh, the BMs as well, the teabag and the shot bodies. And wait, Genji, that's one wingman. You better damn well find a second, my friend, to stay on course here. But UTFT, you notice the difference. Immediately, they go to the death spot from game number 3, but they do it together in force. They lock in the interior first, and that was the difference maker here. Catjam last time had defensive advantage. This time, they were denied.
Oh, it was nearly heart in the mouth moment stuff for UTFT there. I thought when we saw the first not knock, but a lot of damage come through, it would have been a bit of a tough spot to UTFT to find themselves in, but they backed themselves to right their wrongs and fix the problems from that first game on Storm Point, and they pick up the kills onto Catjam, and well, now maybe it's them that can jam their way into a bit of a better standing and spot in this final game. So already early doors, our first squad has been lost. Something tells me though that this might just settle down a little bit here now. We're heading into sort of that, you know, that first looting phase.
Maybe one more clash. Like, we had something happening over towards checkpoint. I think maybe the team's just disengaged for the moment, but considering where the circle's heading, they're going to have to clash again, unless one wants to go for a wide rotation. But final thoughts on that engagement, like, what was done so well is Tax played to the stairs. When he's being pinched like that, he jumps stairs, he's playing head spot only, and then he notices that one of the members of the other side on Catjam gets stuck in the door. That's what essentially secured that fight. I didn't see a way that was ever going to fall flat for them afterwards. But let's check in with Franco Brits. Remember, these guys are in 2nd place. They really need to go on a blitzer to close that gap further, especially now that UTFT has survived the landing.
Well, first call of the protocol check for UTFT. Now if you're Franco Brits in your chest, even the likes of Mythic, do you try and engage UTFT? Do you try and take their game away from them, or do you keep doing what you're doing?
I mean, you have to find them first. This is a bigger deal. They have to do well here. Franco Brits taking heavy fire and returning it just as much. Clash looks good as it trades out, so 1 for 1. The high ground does belong to AJ. Does get the crack as well. Franco Brits looking like they want to clean house. Clone also nearby. They need to be careful. AJ does almost get dropped. Clone now from the high ground needs to save the day. Instead, he just informs. Murky do get eliminated. Franco Brits taking out one of their big competitors over towards launch.
And not only that, 3 instant kills onto the column as well. So, Franco Brits, that is pretty damn decent, to say the least, indeed. So, either way,
It's
yes,
a start.
UTFT. I mean, that's what I mean. I was about to say. Either way, UTFT is still alive. It's the first sign of something good for them, right? That's the main thing and the big talking point that they're going to be happy with. So
yeah, you can't focus on your opponent's game. You just have to go, okay, we're playing our game, we keep playing. Like, we are now in control of how well we do, right? Whether we're going to be in control of our wider destiny is something we have to wait and see, but we can't get bogged down that detail. Every game needs to be a big kill bomb, so let's get it.
something tells me that's a little bit easier said than done. That's just saying
Just
the
do
least.
it,
I mean,
just do it.
yeah, just walk in, get a gun, go pew pew pow, and walk away and win the whole cash tournament. That's it's all done in a day's work, right? But here comes the Valkyrie deploy though from Trivia and the squad. They're going to rotate their way over to a different point on the map as well. There's too
Very
much
wide
sauce.
rotation. They're hunting. They're actually hunting. Too much sauce just looking for kills right now. You can tell by how wide they went here. Like, it's not just about finding a good spot. They want to contest someone. But it looks like they're going to whiff in regards to that.
Well, unfortunately, they have to wait for that redeploy to build itself back up before using it to maybe go hunting for a different squad. And unfortunately, hook line, but no sinker just yet for the squad of Too Much Sauce.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
wait a second. Things might get a little bit saucy here. Notice who's rotating into antenna from behind. This is the risk you run when you skyward dive first. Teams are going to see you, and it looks like Franco Brits have sniffed them out.
Well, they've sniffed them, they've smelt the hot sauce, and they say, can you taste that? It's a little bit tasty to me. That sounds like 3 potentially more kills for us to add to our kill column. Whether or not, though, they do find the engagement is something we're yet to see. But speaking of engagements, UTFT, they've found French and the squad.
Let's see if they can get good position on this, though. I can activate the hunt, look to move in. There's having control of the roof, sees everything they need to. Good hits coming out. They just got the critical information. They're running purples versus blues, so they can push. They're going to do exactly that, moving for the low side. Trying to take control of that roof. They want to make sure every angle's covered, and they want to pinch them inside. You notice their opponents just want to retreat out of this. Zone is coming in. That's going to be added factor to worry about. They have regrouped together, but Cracks are going to go the other way first. UTFT looking good with the aim. Scan follow up through the smoke lets them see all, and it means it's going to be hard to get out of here. Grab lift out isn't going to be successful. French gets taken down, and UTFT are going to add more points to the board.
Just want to say, Genji just got a kill with a 301, not a wingman.
Whoa, wait, what? Has he even got the wingman still?
I don't think he does. I think he's rolling. He's rolling with Arthur on one of the
Okay.
car. It's disgusting. Forfeit. Admins, get an admin right now. We're taking all the kills.
Is dishonorable, okay? Unlike the Overwatch counterpart. Disgraceful.
This is just totally unacceptable behavior from.
I can
Genji.
never trust again.
I feel so betrayed. It's almost like, you know, my ex leaving me all over again. But this hurts a little bit more, to be totally honest with you. But look, either way, I think, you know, UTFT, they probably realised that they want to at least maintain a 100-point lead going into the next stage of games. And maybe that's why Genji's elected to keep the R301 in the locker and in the arsenal.
That's a cop-out, John. Come on. The other two members still get to use what they want. What's the problem?
Yeah, true. I mean, then again, though, if he had the wingman, he might not have picked up those 2 kills just then. So
Yeah, but, you know, if you
never
just
know.
click people's heads with the wingman, you win, right? That's how that works. Just shoot them, lol.
very, very true, to say the least. Either way, though, 21 players remain, all trios up for the remaining 7 sides, and I've been actually a little bit surprised. This has got a little bit of a quicker move on than I expected in the middle stage of the game. Sometimes we associate Stormpoint games with a slow middle, but a fast ending. But it seems like these teams, because they're trying to go hunting for these kills, they're getting caught in a bit of tough predicaments.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's because of the ring location as well. Like, think about the difference. The last ring was on the slope, but this is down the hill. So everyone's just progressing aggressively downward, right? You're able to cover more ground with skyward dives. You're able to slide down hills more easily, dodge and fire on the way in. It just means that you're going to get this clash in the mid to late game much quicker.
Potential clash happening here between Franco Brits and another side.
Scan on one. They ping out, they know they've got targets closer. It's quite a wide split coming out for their opponents here. Franco Brits not getting the opportunity they're looking for to open up. And they need to be a little bit careful because more teams could be rotating in soon from the west. Black hole's in.
Team is going to slowly start to rotate. The black hole does come through. So
That's a whiff though.
Yeah,
that's a big loss though, so they need to make the rest count. And they're getting pinched on the side. Third party galore. Have to push towards the houses here. Too much source. Do they realize what's happening outside? They should be hearing the gunfire. They should be astutely aware that they might be in the perfect position to ruin two teams' days.
Are they going to spoil the party? Are they going to be the Grinch this Christmas? That's the question. Well, for Miloshki, he wants to be the devil in everyone's mind, although he does get spotted. Location does get revealed, but what I do like is, I like the height that you've got, but I also like the fact that you've got one player.
Franco Brits are sending it though, John. They've actually just made the move. They've had enough of this. They don't like stalemates, they don't like being a bind. Instead, they are going to restrict their opponents. Star gets dodged out, but Assault continues on the mid floor. So they'll make their way in, and with the high ground achieved, they'll be able to drop one, but the return fire comes in from the Maggie. Miloj able to even up, with no shields to work with, might be in trouble. Nice clip there. Sunny secures. JC goes down. Franco Brits now down to 1 in a 2v1 situation.
Yeah, it's for too much shield. They've got to try and engage as quickly as possible.
Oh, nice reel.
They've spotted that player. Fantastic util use, but is this a third party that comes through? It's going to be Combo and Breaker from their squad. Flies their way on in. Yes, too much source. They get the kill and they're going to get 3 players back up and alive. But how costly is that going to be? Because although Clones go away, they're now being the ones that are third party by Combo.
They're gone. Gang do exactly that. They gang up and they take them out. One of the front runners gets burnt out early. UTFT still can run and gun. This is bad news for people who were hoping that that lead was going to shrink.
Oh, there's just some way, somehow, they just managed to keep themselves alive, right? That's the big statement that we always say about UTFT. When they're backed against the wall, they get the job done, and they almost like thriving under pressure a little bit. And unfortunately for Franco Brits, the pressure might have just built up on them, but Gang, they sensed the opportunity, and boy, oh boy, did they capitalize on it. They heard the engagements, they knew the players were knocked and they were low, and they picked themselves up a nice few kills.
And now Chet's rotating in. Chet's, of course, the next I see that they get really upset here. They are trailing behind Franco British Union by about 40 points, but this is an opportunity to make up that difference. They do need to lock in some kills. As you may notice, Coach is kind of functioning like a coach. On the sideline, not able to do anything. 0 damage on him or any of his teammates. They have not managed to spill any blood in game number 4.
I mean, for Chets, we usually associate them with a team that at least pick up 5 or 6 or so kills, right? It's very rare that they'll go missing and donut out in the frag department, but
I think usually later though, right? Like usually like
yeah, they're a big end team and end phase fighters. That's one thing that we've learned about them, and it wouldn't surprise me if they pick up at least a squad wipe or a team wipe here in the final stages of the game. But I think for them, they just mainly want to focus that they do finish inside this top 3, etc. Again, to maintain that consistent and their persistence inside that sort of top 3, top 5.
Yeah, but right now, Chet, it feels like you just don't want to send it. Like, it's a lot of open ground, but then also, where's everyone else? You just saw it right there. Clone looks behind him, like, huh? Sorry, the coach is looking behind him, like, where is everyone right now? Like, are they coming? Because that's the thing. Like, we saw other teams come in this location, rotate past, and then get pinched by a third. They need confirmation that more people are forward of them towards the ponds and not behind them in the hills.
Well, sometimes I know the song's What's That Coming Over the Hill? Is it a monster? Sometimes What's That Coming Over the Hill? It's UTFT or it's Chets or it's someone. But for...
You can see who's coming behind them, though. This is what they're worried about, and for good reason. UTFT are behind them. There's also a rotation coming out south side. Some little rats waiting to possibly run around the outskirts here.
I'm just looking at how big this zone is with 5 squads still left.
It's quite wide, right?
I'm mind blown
the choke point.
The fact we've got 5 players.
It's the choke point. There's really the key detail here. Like, the zone's this big, yet everyone is gravitating towards this -1 of the 5 remaining teams. This could very quickly go down to 2 remaining. There's one squad ratting far north around the fish farms area that is not involved in this whatsoever. But UTFT, they're taking the skies. It's time to get eyes on where everyone's at.
Yeah, right, the issue is, though, is they're still quite visible and quite low to the ground here off the reader point, so they could potentially get laser beamed and Genji. Well, this is what happens when you don't run the wingmans that you promised us. You get tagged up and you get hit down low, but for the side of UTFT, I think they get themselves over towards this compound nice and easily. Although, they are going to have their location revealed as to where they've dropped to, and the fact that a couple of their players are low, I think they should live on to see at least another couple minutes or so.
Yeah, the other team can't push. Unless you get down on the entry, you're not even moving, because here's what will happen. You'll move out the shell there, and immediately the team behind you will just take that place. Chets will have the high ground, and then all of a sudden, maybe you take out UTFT, but you won't be far behind them to a grim ending. And, oh, there's our rats. There they are, Joe and Blade. Do they want to fight, or are they just trying to dodge it all?
I think they're just trying to be patient more than anything. We've sent the opportunity. They might just try and capitalise on it. And speaking of capitalising on opportunities, Gang combo in the squad, they've done so well so far to capitalise on every single third party possible.
Now, Gang, if you're not careful and you're being the rats right now on that low ground towards those rocks, you could easily get scouted from this location. If that happens, Gang, like I said, they're not like to full aggress you, but they could easily get a drop from this high ground. So don't want to show yourself at all. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that team actually try to wrap around the low side on the cliffs behind where UTFT is camping.
I mean, this sort of is reminding me of game number 1, right? Where we had that 3-way end zone, and it's whatever team's going to potentially make the mistake or make the engagement point, right? And that first bit of contact, that probably is going to set off a chain reaction and potentially a series of unfortunate events from them, or a fantastic domino effect that works out in their favor to see how these teams are going to start to push out of where they're set up and try and take some engagements to find kills or not. So,
We just got our answer as well. Predators West, they chose to play the rocks, but they just got scanned, so they're known about. This isn't a successful rotation anymore, and they are in a really bad location if UTFT fully commits.
And I think that's exactly what UTFT are gonna do. Those missiles come raining down, but just for now, though, it looks like Jax took the foot off the ignition ever so slightly, but does spot them rotating. Is gonna find a few tags up. Neslo with the bow is gonna find the knock onto Kieran, so that will probably force the engagement out to try and confirm the kill and pick up a few more, but Nez does get dropped, though. It's going to be Hydro who finds the knock. So, UTFT, have they just slightly overstepped the mark here?
It feels like it, right? Like, you want to fish those kills, but it's risky doing this situation. Hydro at least loses his shields in return as they try to push through. Gang are going to get knocked by 1, but Combo will be able to recover into the corner for the moment. If another team comes back in, this could backfire. Gang, both members are cracked, and it looks like UTFT are clutching up. Genji, he might not have the wingmans, but he is playing Sheriff here. Gang will be eliminated by a third team. Genji now has to contest with this as well, and with no HP to work with, he needs a shield switch if he has any hope of surviving this. He'll get it off. Red's in control for him, but he knows they're not going to stop here. Looking for the cracks, gets one of them. Follow-up damage comes out, knocks one on the stairs. Genji, he's worst in the world right now. Shield's going to go up in time. They're on the low side. Teammate is going to give the info. Shield bat is going to be successful. They might go for the res, but he could too. They get the scan out to interrupts. They won't be able to get off in time. It means he should have the heal advantage. Instead, he forces the push to come out. Heavy damage done. Val hiding behind the door. Going to get another knock. Coach goes down. Genji, can he do this? There's no way. There is no possible way this works out. He has them on the edge. Predator West is in the meantime. Coach will be firsted up. Another team coming in. Genji, he survives against all odds and is still running somehow.
He somehow got out as well, and he knows that one of these players are very, very low remaining for the side of Chet's. J-Lo does get himself nicked back up, though, but the engagement's coming through on the third party. It's gonna be, I think this is the side of Mythic, if I'm correct.
It is.
Who come in for the third party. They find the kill, But now they know that it's all up to one remaining player for the side of UTFT. It's all up to Genji. Yes, he's not played the double wingman, but he might make the plays off the back of having a bit of better weaponry to do his team some justice. That's going to be the first knock. Now, 2 versus 1. It's all up to Genji. Does need to try and get that shield battery up and running if possible because he's so low, but the black hole, like you mentioned, does come through. That's going to force Genji into even worse a spot, but does the shield battery come off? I think it does.
He's looking good right now. They're scaling for the roof, but Genji's reset. He'll get the spray through. They have to rush him as 2, and they'll do it. They will block him out. Mythic managed to get another win on the board. Genji, with some miraculous turnabouts, cannot net it in for UTFT, but they finish the day with a second place finish. Some much needed points on the board to scale their lead. But the true story today is Mythic climbing those leaderboards game after game throughout this quarterfinals.
Fantastic stuff though from Genji to try and get his squad back into the game, but wasn't enough as Mythic 3 out of 4 if I'm correct in saying tonight here, Darren. That is fantastic for them, and they're probably sitting there saying to themselves, why have we not done this earlier?
Wait, is it? It was. Yeah, no, you're right. It was free. I just double checked. Honestly, if they'd done it earlier, whew, they might be in UTFT's position right now. I mean, this is the crazy thing. I think people were really shocked with how Mythic were underperforming after their run in the qualifiers. In the early phases, they weren't able to deliver in the groups, but they say it's playoffs time, baby. So it's time to play our hearts out, and that's exactly what we saw here. But you know what? We'll break this all down in a moment. We're going to head to a short break. When we return, we'll be closing out the show and talking about the amazing games we've seen today.
Say the least here at the ESL Premiership. And I mean, Darren, Mythic, 3 out of 4 games. They have come out of nowhere tonight to say, hey, don't talk too much about UTFT. There are still some pretty damn decent squads in this lobby.
Yeah, it felt like the Dragon has done sleep and they finally woke up, and it's great to see them perform like this. Mythic just finally popping off when we reach playoffs, and maybe at a time where they can still somewhat clutch up, if not get first place, at least a podium finish. And what a way they've done it in opening up these quarters. Really big credit to Genji as well. Like, you can't ignore what he done in this game. This was vile to watch. The way he switches shields and plays angles, utilizes the advantage control players can have and hold those choke points in CQ, and dominates his opponents. Even secures first, which, by the way, guaranteed they got the most points out of this lobby. And one of the key details I loved was the follow-up, where he noticed the third party coming in and stopped playing this I can take the whole world on. He stopped being Optimus Prime and backed off to secure his team the second place that guaranteed that they keep a 130-point lead over second place Franco-Brit Union that went out early on in that game.
Listen, I mean, it's been absolutely ridiculous worth of gameplay tonight. I mean, from everything from Mythic winning 3 out of 3, all the way up to, you know, somehow the side of UTFT still being very, very convincingly at the top of the scoreboard. I mean, where does this now leave us going into the next stage of the quarterfinals and before we get to the semis, etc. like that? UTFT, yes, we know that they can play bad, but even with 3 bad games, they're still sitting at a 130-point bang-on lead. Yep. This has got to be demoralizing for the teams behind them still, right?
It's definitely a big hurdle to overcome, and I think Franco-British Union, especially alongside Chet's, now that they've seen Mythic wake up, it's a problem. Because Mythic are in a situation where it would be almost impossible for them to get enough points to take first place. Like right now, Mythic have 166 points. UTFT have 384. And remember, we only have 8 games total remaining. But because Mythic are now popping off, they just increased their wins from 1 to 4 overall in this tournament. They've essentially blocked out Franco-British Union and Chet's from shrinking that gap that UTFT have. I think we are, weirdly enough, despite UTFT's shaky start and performance for a lot of this day, arriving at a situation where it all seems inevitable, where we might just be saying, who's going to be the second place champion here? And that's where it gets interesting. Mythic are still in a situation where if they keep this type of performance up, they could take second place. And above them, you've got Murky, 212 points, Chet's 221, and then Franco-British Union, 254. There's still a lot to be decided in this tournament, and we still have 2 days chocked full of Apex Legends ahead of us.
It's if you've only just joined the action, not only have you missed out on an absolute banger of a day, luckily for you, you've got a few more days left of Apex Legends gameplay, but unfortunately that's all we've got time for here on this broadcast, at least anyway. Of course, thank you so much to Intel for powering the ESL Premiership for Apex Legends as always. Again, thank you to our sponsors, Aegon by OC and Logitech, for working alongside us here. I've had a delightful experience, and I hope you lot in the chat have enjoyed it as well. Darren, thank you so much for joining me, to the production team and the hard-working observers behind as well. Thank you for doing your job to making our pretty faces look like we know what we're talking about. Until next time, guys, make sure you hit the notifications turned on, because we'll be back here tomorrow for some more banger ESL Prem action. You're not going to want to miss it, because it's Apex Legends, baby.